This is the Sons of UCF, the number one place for UCF sports, with your distinguished host, Adam.
Let's all get together and see who can solve the Wordle the fastest.
And Mike.
You know, last year I think I said about 30 people in the UCF Sons of UCF group. Let's try to double that. Let's try to get 50.
Now, here are the guys.
Hey now, Night Nation, what is going on? Sons of UCF, episode number 175. My name is Adam, and I'm excited to finally welcome back my good friend and yours. He's been around the globe. He's been at every local watering hole, it appears, in the European continent. He has found his way back home to his rightful spot here on the Sons of UCF. He is our number one fan and everyone's favorite person. Mr. UCF Mike, welcome back, my friend. How are you?
Buongiorno!
Buongiorno.
How's it going? Yeah, I'm back, baby. I'm back. Can't get rid of me. It's gone for what? 10 days? 2 weeks? I'm back, baby. I'm ready to roll. Had a great time. Probably the best vacation I've ever been on. But back to reality. Back to work yesterday and today. So here we are doing another show. Well, this is going to be a good one, Mike, because here's what we got going on for you guys. Mike has been out of the loop outside of posting pictures of him drinking voluminous amounts of beer. So he's been out of the loop. He does not know what's been going on in UCF Nation. So I'm going to fill him in this evening. You're going to listen to this in real time as I update Mike on all the comings and goings of the past couple weeks. So that'll be a fun endeavor. You don't want to miss that. We've got Charge On, Charge Off. Mike, while you were gone, Trace and I were accused on Twitter of just not keeping it real enough. Apparently, you're the only one on the show keeping it real. You're the only one who's got like that hot take perspective. So, charge on, charge off. You're getting heat today, my friend. You are getting nothing but scorching hot takes. And you're going to tell me whether you charge on, charge off of that. We have Cow of the Week coming up, Mike. And then we have a special interview. And by special, I mean you guys are all going to hate it because you hated it the first time we played it. And I imagine you're going to hate it a second time. We'll fill you in more on that later on, Mike. That is the action-packed episode 175 agenda. I'm charged up. I know you're all fired up after a nice vacation. I'm sure you're ready to get rocking and rolling. Yeah, absolutely. I have no idea what happened while I was gone.
Yeah.
So anyway, the only thing I know is Will Smith smacked Chris Rock.
He did. Yeah, he did. That's old news. That feels like a month ago at this point already. Before we get to all that, a couple things we need from you. Number one, we got a little YouTube channel out there, Sons of UCF. And if you haven't been checking this YouTube channel out, you're going to want to check this thing out. Our man Trey Strelko has been on the scene at pretty much every press availability. He was at UCF's Pro Day. He's got a lot of great stuff up there. We're continuing to put more stuff on the YouTube channel. Greg Lovelady exclusives coming each week. I know Trace is working on a couple of other exclusive conversations he's trying to line up. Do us a favor. Do Trace a favor. Get to that Sons of UCF YouTube page. Hit a little subscribe button. You're going to catch all that content on there. Trace is just busting his ass getting content out there for us. And we definitely appreciate it. We want to make sure that you all get a chance to see it. And we want to make sure we can keep finding ways to bring it to you. So get to that Sons of UCF YouTube page. Make sure you subscribe there. We're also on the gram now, Mike. We're on the IG. We've been on the IG, but we don't really do much on IG. And the other day, the epiphany hit us like, we should get more active on IG. So Sons of UCF on Instagram. We're going to start doing some exclusive stuff on the IG. You're going to want to check out the Instagram. We got a couple hundred followers. We're going to need a couple hundred more. We got some cool interviews on there. I actually posted something earlier, Mike, for the show, asking people for some suggestions to what to share with you. So get to the IG, follow us there, and make sure you keep supporting us in any way, shape, or form you can. We love doing the show. We want to keep doing the show. So make sure you keep supporting us, and we'll keep on trucking for you. So if you can take care of all that for us, the next hour and whatever minutes is all free for you. So just everybody enjoy. But make Trace happy. Subscribe to that YouTube. Make me happy. Subscribe to the Instagram. Make Mike happy and buy him a beer sometime.
The Instagram does not have any pictures of my vacation on it.
No,
yet.
OnlyFans.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you definitely got to get on all those apps, all the social media. We're everywhere now. We're worldwide. We're on every app you can get. Yeah, I was just on the other side of the world just the other day. So.
Did you get recognized by anybody? Anybody like, hey, that's Mike from the Sons of UCF Live? Nothing?
I could feel a couple people looking at me.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if that was the reason, but I'm pretty sure, yeah. I was trying to go incognito.
Would there have been another reason they were looking at you?
Yeah, I'm sure there have been a couple.
There have been a couple. All right. Well, you were gone, and you missed a handful of things, Mike. So I'm going to update you on what's been happening around UCF. So this is real time UCF Mike getting a download on the comings and goings at UCF, and they start with. We have a new head women's basketball coach, Mike. I don't know if you know this or not. Coach Abe, she gone. Her and her entire staff are now at the University of Georgia. So Coach Abe takes her 131 wins, her 3 tournament appearances, her 1 conference title, and her whole entire coaching staff, Mike. And she is now in Athens. She got a pretty hefty raise. I think it's $950K is what the rumored contract was for Georgia. So Coach Abe is gone. We kind of all assumed this could be where it's heading, but obviously everything official at this point now. Mike, thoughts? Coach Abe is no longer with us.
I am not surprised at all. I said it probably with a couple of games to go in this season that she's doing too well, right? And that's what we all wanted. It was like the Scott Frost thing. You saw it coming. There's no way we can compete with the money that Georgia threw at her. So that's the situation we're in with the budget we have, especially for a sport like women's basketball. We can't compete with top schools, SEC schools, and away she goes. I can't complain about it. I would have done the same thing if I was her. So good luck to her. She did a great job here. I'm sure she's going to do great over at Georgia. But the show continues. Train moves on, and we've got a new coach now in town.
We do have a new coach in town. But before we get to that, there's some rumors too, Mike. So allegedly, Jason Beatty of the Orlando Sentinel did some reporting, and so did Brandon Helwig from UCHeadsports.com, that Timo was willing to offer Coach Abe a substantial raise. I think it was something like would have made her one of the top 15 highest paid coaches in all of women's basketball. If you do the math, I think Beatty had that about like $900K-ish would have been the offer. She got $950 from Georgia. And then somehow that never materialized. She ends up at Georgia. And then Timo puts out a statement basically, letting Night Nation know, hey, you know what, we're moving on. We're going to find the right winner. And he adds a line in there about finding a coach that'll be 100% committed to the team and to moving forward. I'm paraphrasing that, but he absolutely used the words 100% committed. That ruffled some people the wrong way. Some people were like, hey, bro, just hit her with a thank you for everything and let's keep it moving. And then some people were like, you know what, she's gone. Who cares? Like, let's just move on, and we got to find a new coach, Mike. So some people are, I don't want to say accusing, but Timo took some slings, some arrows for his handling of Coach Abe. But to your point, this might have always been the way this story played out. So do you lay any of this, having heard all of that on Timo and maybe his negotiation tactics, and maybe even having some hurt feelings after the fact?
I don't think she left because he was bitter about it, or it is what it is. I don't think she left because of Timo. She left because an other opportunity presented itself, and it's a SEC job where there's probably more prestige there. I mean, she's playing right now at UCF. How many people were going to those games?
People would
count them on one hand.
People would tell you it was in the hundreds. And there's a dirty little stat there that they count men's season ticket holders or something like that in the women's crowd. People will tell you it's in the low hundreds. Yeah,
and that's if you count everybody's fingers and toes. It's not that many people. So you can't blame her to go to. It's a more prestigious job, and UCF women's and basically all our sports, they're stepping stone jobs for if you want to get paid the big bucks and you want to move on and be in the big spotlight. So I don't think anything Timo could have done would have kept her here. I mean, unless he's going to pay her, top 5 of all basketball coaches, I don't think she's staying here. So, the statement, be 100% committed. I think she was 100% committed while she was here, while she was doing her job. I don't think she was, looking to go somewhere else during the season and stuff. But when the opportunity presents itself, she's got to consider her own family and what's best for her. So good luck finding somebody that's going to come here and stay here for the rest of their career. I don't think that's happening. If that's what he means by 100% committed, I don't think that person exists.
Yeah, I mean, this is reckless speculation time. I mean, so I have no inside information, recklessly speculating. Part of me wonders if that means at some point in time, Timo's not an idiot. He saw what you and I saw, what everybody saw, which was Coach Abe was doing a damn good job, and her phone was going to ring in the offseason. Perhaps he approached her at some point during the season as the playoffs were starting and started floating these contract opportunities and said, hey, let's lock this up. Let's do this. And perhaps she was like, no, you know what? I'm not ready now. I imagine he made that good faith offer, and I don't know where or when it was. But, I mean, look, sometimes there's strings attached, right? Sometimes there's, hey, I'm going to offer you $900K. Take it or leave it. Like, let's go. Let's just do this. You say you want to be here. I want you here. Here's a substantial raise. Let's just lock this thing in. And if she's like, nah, I want to go check out and see what's going on in Georgia, I could see Timo getting himself in his feelings a little bit and being like, I offered you good money. You told me you wanted to stay. I made you an offer that would allow you to stay, give you a substantial raise. You'd be making a lot of money. You'd essentially be, you know, the face of this program for the next however many years. And you still said, hey, I want to go check out Georgia. So maybe just regular speculation. Maybe this is Timo being like, you said you wanted to be here. I made you an offer to keep you here. And it turns out it's a damn competitive offer. If $900K is accurate, and $950 is what she's making, it's a damn competitive offer, right? With state tax and everything else, I mean, it's probably a wash at some point. Maybe he's got some feelings like, you told me you wanted to be here, I made it happen so you could be here, and you don't even end up staying. Maybe that's where he's at. I don't know. Reckless speculation.
Yeah, it's possible. But, I mean, what is the return on investment on that anyway?
Not great, no.
So, I mean, Timo's got to get to a point where he can't go over a certain number, and that was as high as he was willing to go, then that's what it was, and she wasn't going to accept it, then that's it too. So
yeah,
I wasn't upset about it at all. I know people got all upset that, you know, she's leaving and this and that, but what are you going to do about it? It's women's basketball. Like I said, 10 people go to the game on a nightly basis. Nobody really pays attention to the sport.
10.
So it is what it is.
Like hundreds of 10. I don't think anybody was upset about, well, not anybody. I'm sure people were disappointed that she left because we knew she was a good coach. But if you have eyeballs, you knew this was coming, right? We all saw this train coming down the track for a while. It seemed like people were actually more upset at Timo for the way like the whole thing got handled versus Coach A for actually leaving. But who knows? We move on, and we think things are great, Mike, until we get news that Diamond Battles, Brittany Smith, and Alicia Lewis, who are 3 key players on the team from last season, have all decided they are going to leave UCF. Diamond had previously said that she was coming back and she was going to be here for her last year. That was obviously before the Coach Abe news. Then she, says, hey, by the way, I am coming back, just not to UCF. Brittany Smith, not terribly unexpected, Mike. And Alicia Lewis was a tad unexpected, I think, for her to leave, Mike. But we've seen this before. Upheaval. And here's the thing about what happened. Timo didn't name an interim coach. The entire staff went with Coach Abe. So there's really nobody minding the shop, right? There's nobody for Diamond Battles to go talk to and say, hey, what's the future look like here at UCF? So there was a good week time period there where there was nothing. Like, I don't know where some of these ladies went to have conversations. And all in all, they went to their family, their friends, who knows. And before you know it, they're in the portal, Mike. So the dream season, probably our best women's basketball season ever, comes crashing down in a hurry once we find out these 3 are exiting stage left and moving on elsewhere. People can assume Georgia. I don't know if that's true or not, but obviously they're moving on. And so the entirety of that season crumbled pretty quickly in the span of like 48 hours.
Yeah. And imagine if the transfer portal was around back when Scott Frost left.
Good Lord. We'd have been gutted.
Everybody would have been gone. They would have all left. Milton would have left. They all would have left. So that's just the life of 2020. Or I'm sorry, 2022.
Hello, Mike. Welcome back.
So I think it was to be expected. And, she could have waited another week to see who the coach was. But she knew once coach was gone, she was going to leave too. And so same thing with Brittany Smith, same thing with everybody else that decided to transfer. I could have told you that was coming too.
What's interesting about this, though, is there was no interim named. And even if you go back to the Scott Frost thing, and I know, don't get mad, everybody. I'm comparing football and basketball again. I apologize. But even if you think about the Scott Frost thing, he goes to Nebraska. Troy Walters stays behind because he thinks he has a shot at the head job. Once he realizes he doesn't, then he bolts out of town as well, and he goes to Nebraska. Nobody from the current staff was either willing, or Timo wasn't willing to even dangle the opportunity for any of them potentially, I suppose, I have to assume, to take that head job. So there was no interim, nobody minding the store, which really just kind of adds fuel to that fire around the messiness of the departure of Coach Abe and sort of how Timo handled that. But we'll get into that in a little bit, Mike. But then news comes down on Sunday night, Monday, that we have our new women's head basketball coach. It is Satia Messer. and she had spent the previous years as an assistant at Baylor and then the last season at LSU. Had some head coaching experience early in her career at Tennessee Tech, I think it was. Mike Bennett, Baylor under Kim Mulkey, who is a renowned women's basketball coach. A lot of success there. She comes here with her time at Baylor. If you want her quick stats, she was there from 13 to 2021. They had 8 regular season championships, 6 conference tournament champions, 6 Elite Eights, and 1 national title in 2019. She inks a deal at UCF, $625K a year. She's known to be a good recruiter. She's known to be a good developer of talent, Mike. So Satia Messer comes in now, and what she has left to work with, who knows? But the transfer portal works both ways. So perhaps maybe coming to UCF will be some players. But Satia Messer, your new women's basketball coach. Mike, your thoughts on welcoming Coach Messer to UCF?
Yeah, she's got the solid resume. She's been part of winning programs, so you always like to see that. She's had head coaching experience. You like that. So really nothing not to like about the hire. I guess we're going to find out as we go, but you're right. She's going to bring somebody in with her, just like Diamond Battles is following Coach Abe, most likely. I'm sure she's got a player or two that she's worked with before that are going to come over and help the transition. She's going to have somebody on the court that can help her, impact. I'm sorry. What am I trying to even say? Somebody that's going to help her, bring the system along, and I think everything will be fine. We're obviously going to be in a rebuilding mode for a season or two, but she seems like she is well qualified for the job.
Well, first things first, I like the lady because she did a walk and talk outside of Edition Financial on her social media feed. She does a little walk and talk welcoming herself to Night Nation. She said a lot of great things. She wants to win on the court, win in the classroom, and she basically said, look, I've won before. You guys have won here. Let's just do it together. So she said all the right things. She won the press conference. Very rare when someone doesn't win the press conference, but she won the press conference. And we'll see, to your point, who she can bring in, who she can assemble from a staff perspective. If who knows, maybe Diamond Battles or Alicia Lewis turn around and be like, okay, hey, you know what? Maybe let me check that back out. Maybe that's a good situation for me. Just because you enter the portal doesn't mean you leave. So there's options there as well. So Satia Messer is our new women's basketball coach, and we'll keep you updated on what that means and comings and goings and what that future looks like, Mike. But on Tuesday, sad news, tough news broke. Gus Malzahn apparently was up in Auburn on Monday evening. He was up there helping his family. As everybody knows, his wife's father had passed away. He went up to Auburn to assist the family in some stuff, and he was in a car accident, and he was reported to be the driver of the accident. The other motorist was a motorcycle driver. That individual was airlifted to a hospital, although law enforcement and medical officials are saying that that person is in critical condition but is expected to survive. UCF put out a pretty brief statement basically saying Coach was in an accident. They're saying he's uninjured and he's expected back at UCF. We have scrimmage on Thursday, Mike. So Coach Malzahn, car accident. This guy cannot catch a break. Obviously, we do not know the details, so I don't want to speculate as to what happened, how it happened. But good news is he appears to be okay health-wise. But just another interesting break for Gus Malzahn in what's been just a series of tough things that have happened to him and his family.
Yeah, he's had a rough go of it the last few months. But it's good to hear he's healthy, he's fine, he escaped the accident without any injuries. You hope the other guy in the motorcycle comes out of it okay. But yeah, you can hold your breath for a second when you first hear. I saw the headline and I had to say, "Oh wow, hold on a second, what happened here?" And first, you hope that he's okay, and then second, you hope that nothing, it wasn't his fault or he did anything, illegal to cause an accident. But it sounds like everything's on. It's just a regular accident. Things happen sometimes, and good thing he's going to be fine. So. I don't know, man. The last couple of months for this guy, he just had a death in the family. His wife was in the hospital for months. We couldn't get updates on her. His daughter gave birth to a baby, and she had complications there. I can't imagine what this guy's been through. And then you talk about the football team, like that seems meaningless at this point with all the stuff he's had going on in his family. But even the football season last year, all the adversity we went through, this guy's coming out of it like a champ, man. Hopefully things flip around the other way for him and we start getting some good news coming out of the Malzahn side. Yeah,
it's interesting, too, because this happened Monday night, and I checked with Trace, who was on campus all day for spring practice, and there were interviews with Chip Lindsey and a bunch of players, and no mention of that early on. It really broke from a reporter, I think, up in the Auburn, Alabama area, so UCF wasn't really even sharing this news, so I don't know what that means. I don't know how to interpret that if you want to control the spin on these kind of things, but again, it appears everything is on the up and up, but I guess we'll have to wait and see when more details emerge. Again, Gus is expected to be back in Orlando if he's not already in Orlando. There's a scrimmage on Thursday. To your point, Mike, if you recall, the scrimmage had been previously moved because Gus was going to attend to the funeral of his father-in-law. So some scheduling changes have taken place, and you just hope everything works out okay for everybody. But yeah, it was a bit of a jaw drop when I saw a headline, Gus Malzahn in car accident, and I was like, oh my goodness, what's happening? I mean, it just feels like one thing after the other. So hopefully all is well with Coach. And again, we'll get to that scrimmage on Thursday. And Mike, we may figure out at this point now we're getting down to the nitty gritty. We're basically about 10 days or so away from the spring game. And more football news. It appears there's a lot of reports that this quarterback battle is now down to a 2-horse race. Michael Keene and Jonathan Rice Plumlee. I have no idea if those are the real names, but it just feels more appropriate that way. So Keene and Plumlee appear to be the battle for the quarterback spot. I think some of the other battles are starting to really kind of take shape. I think you're seeing receivers kind of come into form. We know what running backs are going to be about. I think there's some offensive line stuff. I think the linebacker group is still kind of up for question, Mike. So the QB battle, are you good with it just being Keene v. Plumlee? Do you think that is the right decision as we head down the stretch here?
I think that's what everybody basically expected, unless Castellanos came in and just blew everybody's doors off. Seems like he's very talented, but maybe just not ready yet. I'm not surprised that these are the two guys going in, but I got to give Keene still a little bit of the edge coming off the experience from last year. Let's see what kind of improvements he's made from year to year. That's a big jump from freshman to sophomore year. So the spring game is going to tell us a lot, I think. Now, the QB is going to be live. I believe they were all live last year, right?
Except for Dylan Gabriel. Dylan was not live, yes. Yep.
So now what does Gus do? Is that a big giveaway? Is one guy live and the other guy's not? You got Plumlee, who likes to run with it. You're going to let him take all those hits in the spring game like that? It's going to be interesting. They may both not be live. And we're going to have to just make our judgments that way. It's going to be interesting. How much playing time does each one get? Things like that is what you kind of look for in the spring game.
But do you honestly think so Gus, I'm sure will know. Do you think there'll be a tell for us and the fans and media based off spring game, or do you think Gus will kind of keep it close to the vest and you and I will continue to be in episodes 176 and 177 and 178 doing the same speculation because we're not really sure who the QB is going to be?
Well, I would say whichever quarterback goes out there with the number one offensive line is probably right now quarterback one, right? You would think. Playing with the whole first team offense. Now, do they take turns doing that? Do they switch back and forth with that? Gus may treat this 50-50 straight down the line and not tip his hand at all. I don't know what he's going to do. But, who's saying green the best? Because that's where we left off last time. Has Plumlee picked up the bass in his voice at all when he started doing the greens?
Yeah, I haven't seen anything in that, but I do have exclusive news to report, Mike. If you go to social media, there are some photos circulating, and it's all four quarterbacks. So it's Keene, Plumlee, Castellanos, and Parker Navarro, and they're all in the same position. It looks like they've all just received like a fake snap, and they're going back to throw the football. I should look up whose picture that is. And if you look at the picture, John Rice Plumlee is staring firmly at the football, where everybody else has their eyes up, and actually Castellanos looks the best. Off that picture alone, I think John Rice's eyes are in the wrong spot, Mike. He's staring at the football. That's not what you need at a quarterback. I think he's looking the ball into his hands. He's not prepared. He's not ready. So I'm exclusively telling you that John Rice Plumlee is at least QB2 because he's staring at the football out of the snap, Mike. You got to have your eyes up, buddy.
This goes back to the Rob Calabrese while he was looking at the ball coming out of his hands instead of looking at where he's throwing it.
That's fair.
It's hard to tell from pictures sometimes, but yeah, I mean, you want your quarterback's eyes downfield. You said that they pretended to take a step, so there wasn't even a ball in the picture?
No, there's a ball. It's like
Or
that
there,
thing though where you have it in your hand and they spin it to themselves and act like they just received the snap. It's that deal. So the credit goes to Julian Bright, Julian M. Bright on Twitter. Mikey Keene has got both hands on the ball. He's staring, looks like potentially right down the middle of the field. John Rice Plumlee looking dead at the football. Castellanos looking off to his right like he's already getting into his reads. And Parker Navarro looking right straight ahead. I don't know if these are live action photos, if these were just stage photographs, but I'll retweet it for everybody right now if you haven't seen it already. And off this picture alone, I'm willing to tell you it's going to be Mikey Keene because John Rice Plumlee staring at the football.
Well, I mean, you have to watch the ball go into your hands. So it depends, like, how far is the ball?
You threw it to yourself, though. Like, this is like they tossed it to themselves. It isn't like I'm waiting on you to throw me the ball and I got to look it into my body. I tossed it to myself in this case.
Yeah,
Look, you've got your green theory, right? I've got my who's looking at the ball theory. You know what I mean?
I'm not going against what you're saying.
Sounds like you are.
Sounds
like you are.
To be looking downfield, I agree. But I need to know a little bit more. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe. Are there actually receivers down there?
Who knows? Nobody really knows. Here's the analysis we have for you. Mike's after Cadence, and I have not heard any updates on Cadence. I don't know what's going on with that. I'm not sure if the mics haven't been close enough, if they've gotten away from the Cadence stuff. I don't really know. So we may have to move on to who's spinning the football to themselves the best. And at this point, I actually might give it to Castellanos first. I like that he's already got his eyes out of the pocket. He's looking to the outside. Maybe he's picking up a blitzer. Who knows? But right, John Rice Plumlee staring the football down. Yeesh.
You told me there's only a 2-horse race.
I did.
Castellanos is out.
I did.
Where'd you get that info from?
It's just widely known. I think everyone sort of assumes that Castellanos is just, a freak athlete and somebody who's the future. I think what you're hearing out of camp from people is that he's not ready just yet to take the reins of everything. He very well is probably the future and somebody who's going to have a ton of runway for UCF. But right now that it's kind of clear that the other two have a better command of the offense, a better command of the huddle. And Castellanos is kind of coming along. Again, just what I'm hearing, conjecture. It could be a smoke screen. You never know. But it sounds like those two are kind of separated themselves just in terms of their playbook knowledge and their ability to kind of get the offense in and out of the huddle.
So he's Willie Beeman is what you're telling me. Willie Beeman was third string.
He was.
And then a couple of injuries later, he took over the team.
Look, I would not be shocked if you sat here and told me right now that Castellanos took more than 5 snaps this year. I wouldn't be shocked at that. Again, I think he's got a ton of runway. And, there may be a point in time where if the offense is a little stagnant, you need a spark, right? Like, I know we keep doing this thing where we compare everybody in the world to Mackenzie Milton, and there's really only one Mackenzie Milton. But you saw his freshman year while he was raw, and there were times where he put the ball on the ground 6 times against Maryland. You saw that he had some of this playmaking ability where you were like, whoa, where did that come from? Look at this kid play. And I think there's probably a little bit of that in Castellanos. I think we thought maybe Mikey Keene was that guy. But last year, at least from what we saw, he didn't really kind of have that same skill set. All accounts are telling you Castellanos is that guy. Big arm, looks the part. Everybody who talks about him at the podium says he's super athletic, makes crazy athletic plays. So I think he's got that little, Mackenzie Milton type vibe going on where he may not have the most polish, he may not know all his reads, but somehow the kid's going to get you 10 yards and a first down. So if you told me he played this year, I wouldn't be shocked. I just think you're asking a lot for a true freshman to come in and grasp a playbook, beat out a kid who was basically started every game last year except for the first 3, and a kid in Plumlee who's got a ton of experience playing in the SEC. I think you're asking a lot for Castellanos.
Yeah, but same thing, Justin Holman was coming in after winning a conference championship the year before, and then the injury happened in 15, I guess. But in 16, the first chance that Frost got to put in his guy, he took it. So
and that very well may happen, and that could you could be right. That could happen here too, right? It could be Keene on opening day, and it just doesn't go well, and all of a sudden before you know it, out trusts Castellanos, and the rest is history, right? I mean, it's very possible at this point. But I think coming out of camp, it seems like Keene and Plumlee are kind of the 1-2. At least in terms of where everyone's envisioning it. Again, it's all a conjecture. No one knows until Gus says it out loud. So, but that's kind of the reporting you're hearing out of camp.
All right. Well, let's figure out if the quarterbacks are live during the spring game, who gets the most snaps, who's running with the ones, things like that, and what kind of play calling are they doing with each quarterback? Is Plumlee actually going to be allowed to throw the ball? Is he only coming in to run the ball? Things like that. A lot of things we got to look forward to in the spring game.
You're anti-spring game, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to the spring game.
Right.
I've never been. I treat the spring game like 7-Up.
Never
have, and never will.
Yeah, I think we're gonna head to that. I think there's some efforts on my family's part to be a part of the spring game. So I will report back exclusively on who stares the ball down from the snap from center. Matt Lee, I'm watching you too. News again today, Mike. Again, just news everywhere for you. And I don't know how much this impacts us. I don't know that we will know for a while yet. But Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlesby, the same Bob Bowlesby who was part of the invite process to bring us into the Big 12, announces that he's going to be leaving the Big 12 later this year and that a search is on for his replacement, Mike. So Bob Bowlesby, who sort of, I assume he was a big part of us getting to the conference, is exiting stage left before we will ever play a game. I have no idea what to make of this. Do you have any concerns? How does that make you feel when you hear Bob Bowlesby's a gunner?
I was going to ask you, is this good news or bad news? I don't even know. The guy just invited us, and now he's going to be gone. They can't take the invitation away, right? That's done, sealed.
I think so. I mean, we're not in the conference yet. Right, we're not in the conference yet. In theory, I don't know what the paperwork says. I assume there's always a trap door on every contract. But in theory, you would think that he alone didn't decide this, right? The conference presidents from the schools made that decision. I'm sure there's some sort of board of governors situation. It wasn't like he was like eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I think multiple people played a role in it. So I feel pretty comfortable saying that we're going to be okay to get in, but I'm sure there's always that 5% trap door in the contract that we're like, holy crap, what about that?
Yeah, I mean, there was a day when we were joining the Big East, too, and that never happened.
Yes.
It turned into the American before we could even get there. I don't know if this is good or not.
Yeah.
Bowlesby, obviously, there's pluses and minuses with him. He's lost some of the biggest teams in his conference. So Oklahoma gone, Texas gone. Before that, Nebraska gone. So Texas A&M. You wonder how good has he been as commissioner of the Big 12. But at the same time, he also brought us in. So I don't know what to make. I don't know who the replacement's going to be. Are you telling me Mike Oresco is coming over?
I'm not telling you that. I hope that's not happening.
If that happens, I don't know what.
I mean, it should make the negotiation for the exit fee a little easier, but yes, I don't know that I'm looking for another Mike Oresco regime in my life. Although literally those offices are across the street from each other, but I'm not looking forward to another Mike Oresco regime.
I hope not. I hope. But I don't know what to make of this news yet. I guess we should have seen it coming. The guy is 70 years old. I think a lot of people in the business saw that this was coming. A little odd that he does it after adding 4 schools and never being able to see them get into the conference. You would have thought maybe he would have just left it up to the next commissioner. But I don't know, man. I guess let me find out who the new commissioner is going to be, and I'll give you some more insight on it.
Well, yeah, I think you hit a couple of things on the head there. One, his age, right? He was in his 70s at this point. 2, let's be real. He lost the 4 biggest brands in their conference over the past 5 or 10 years, right? You named all of them already. The 4 biggest names, the biggest brands have all left his conference. There was that stupid alliance of scheduling that took place with the other schools. It was the PAC and the ACC and the Big Ten, and they left him out. So perhaps there's some frosty relationships there. Rumors are he doesn't have a great rapport with ESPN, which, like it or not, controls just a bunch of college football these days, and his relationship there wasn't strong. He was more outspoken. He was kind of the one that was always at the podium talking about expansion and some of that stuff. So perhaps this was just kind of a long time coming, and the tea leaves are already kind of being written. And you know what, Mike? You getting under fire at work. You start making some decisions. Perhaps he was like, hey, don't worry, we're losing these schools, but I'm bringing these 4 schools in. Everyone kind of took some time and was like, you know what, Bob, maybe time for you to step out of here. So I think to your point, we have to see who's coming in. What it does potentially do, though, is there was talk of a second expansion into the Big 12, right? Then the Cows fans are always up in arms that they were going to get in there, although they think they're going to the ACC, so who knows. Memphis, obviously, is kind of on the outside looking in. Boise State was on the outside looking in. This may slow that second expansion down, which I don't know if that's good news or bad news for us, but that may slow some of that stuff down. But I think It's interesting, right? It's not surprising when you look at the evidence and you think of the reasons why somebody would be like, hey, you might not be good at your job and you should probably leave it. Some of those things we let out would be those evidentiary reasons. But who's going to come in? If it's a Resco, ugh. I mean, there's talk of Oliver Luck, who's Andrew Luck's dad. You never know with this kind of stuff. But whoever's in this seat has a really important task because the Big 12 has that autonomy 5 status right now. They have that automatic bid. Obviously, conferences are trying to consolidate at all times. So whatever happens, A, needs to happen quickly. And B, needs to happen with a really strong person because if any of these SEC, ACC, Big 10 schools smell like blood in the water, I mean, this could be free pickings for other schools if the Big 12 and whoever makes this decision drags their feet. So whatever it is, I think it needs to be swift and it needs to be somebody with some backbone because you know how this thing works, Mike. People will start poaching the minute Bowlesby turns his back. They were poaching when he was there. What are they going to do when he's not around?
Yeah, could get dangerous. But, the conference is strong. They just won another national championship in basketball with Kansas. So in basketball, they are probably the top conference in the country.
Back to back, yeah. Back to back.
You need somebody to come in, I think, with some strong football ties and get the football programs back in the right direction. Some of the football teams had pretty good seasons last year, too. If you add the 4 schools that are coming in, you had a team in Cincinnati that was in the playoff. You have Houston that had a solid season. Us and BYU have been good programs for the last few years. And then the teams that were already in there, Baylor's been pretty decent. Oklahoma State's had some good runs. So it's not a bad football conference. But, yeah, you're right. Need to be able to keep those schools here because if you lose a couple more, then we're basically back in the American again.
Yeah, I mean, whoever's mining the store needs to mine it pretty quickly because you don't want to leave the back door open, and before you know it, schools are leaving everywhere, Mike. One final one. This is probably better news for those out there. The baseball team started off the conference schedule, Mike, and they started off with the Cows. It was interesting. You start off the conference play. We talk to Stephen Branca every week on the live show. He tells us every time conference play is a whole new season. Well, we start off conference play with the Cows, who were technically leading the conference, although it was 0-0. They had the most wins out of conference, and they were 18-7. And they come to Orlando for a 3-game series. Things got a little bit squirrely with the weather. No game Saturday, so they played a double on Sunday, plus a game on Friday, Mike. And what do you know? UCF clean sweep. We sweep the Cows right away, 3 straight, including 2 shutouts. We're now 3-0 in the conference, although it's early, by the way. Tied for first with Tulane. The Cows, 3 straight losses, 18-10 on the season, Mike. We swept the Cows right off the map. That had to be great news for you to figure out when you got home.
Yes. And we've dominated the Cows in every sport this year. It kind of makes that one loss, basketball took by 20 points, look even worse now. How did that even happen? But complete domination on the diamond. That was great to see. Great start to conference play. But as I'm looking at it right now, we're 1 out away from losing to FAU.
Yes.
Down 5-3 in the 9th inning. But a good weekend, a good start to conference. Keep that going. Those are the games that really matter, and especially the ones against the Cows. You always got to win those.
Yeah, and then we have a set with Tulane this weekend. No, not Tulane. I think Tulane this weekend. So we have an opportunity to, continue our record. We'll see sort of what happens from that standpoint. But sweeping the Cows, Mike, sweeping them away, 2 shutouts. They trot out those fancy uniforms, and they were 18-7. And it's funny that Stephen Branca on the live show told us that, he was in the dugout last year when we lost that heartbreaker to them in the conference championship game. He saw guys crying. He saw guys upset. And he was like, look, I have no concern. These guys are going to come out fired up and ready to play. And I'll be damned if Stephen Branca wasn't right because they definitely came out on fire and sweep the Cows away. Looks like we're going to drop this one to FAU here, which is unfortunate, but we'll hopefully get back on track with conference play, Mike. Hey, and that's really all you missed, Mike. I mean, you only been, you were gone a couple of days. I mean, that's not a whole lot, right?
No, it wasn't too bad. I think you left out a softball swept the Cows too.
We expected that, right? I mean, I don't know. See, that's the thing. I don't know when you left. I was writing all these down. I'm like, when did Mike leave? Because I had basketball on here, and I was like, I think you were here for all the transfers, right? You know about everyone who transferred out of basketball, right?
Maybe.
Isaiah Adams, Isaiah Adams is in the portal now?
Yeah, I believe I remember that, yeah.
Dre Fuller, Tony Johnson Jr., Xavier Rhodes, they're all in the portal. Mahan, Perry, and Mbake obviously are gone. Darren Green announced he's coming back. CJ Walker appears to be hanging out at Mission Control events, so maybe he's coming back too. But that's really the update with basketball. And I didn't know if you knew all that. I wasn't sure where you were. Virginia Tech came to town for softball. We didn't get swept, but we have a nice walk-off by Shannon Doherty. And Elo with a great call there. So softball is continuing to crank. 18-game win streak snapped, but hopefully back on the right track. But you're right. We wiped the diamond with them. Is it a diamond in softball? We wiped the. Is it a circle? What
I
is
think it's still diamond.
It's still diamond. No, we wiped the diamond with them in softball
then. Yes, we did. So we own the Cows so far and everything. What else did they beat us in besides that one basketball game? I think they beat us in soccer or something. Other than that. We've owned them.
Yeah, I believe, according to CostSeg Advisor, who is probably one of the more knowledgeable on this topic, we have already won the War on I-4 for the year. We have enough points now to seal the victory. Obviously, still some games left to be played, but CostSeg, I think, is exclusively reporting the War on I-4 again stays in Orlando.
It's over. They've never beat us since we started keeping track of the points this way. What has it been, 5 years now? We've beat them and dominated them in every sport. So and it's over, and it's not even close.
Yeah,
the standings. It's like 42-12 the last time I saw the standings. It feels good. It feels good to really just dominate them and to do it again. Let's do it again for one more year and then get the heck out of here.
You know what? Let's get the heck out of this segment. I need a break. There was a lot of stuff to cover with you. I need a breather for a moment. So we're gonna grab a quick little commercial break situation here, and we're gonna come back. We'll do some charge on, charge off. I've got some firing hot takes that I'm gonna spit at Mike, and he's gonna tell me if he agrees or not. So we're gonna do all that in a second. Let me get some water. I'm thirsty. Sons of UCF.
This is UCF head football coach Gus Malzahn, and you should listen to the Sons of UCF like your hair is on fire. Go Knights and charge on.
Time for charge on, charge off. Here's the way this game works, Mike. Again, I said this off the top. Trace and I were accused of being a little bit too vanilla, I guess. Maybe we're too pro-UCF at all times, and we don't keep it real enough, Mike. So charge on, charge off. Here's what happens. I'm going to give you a firing hot, provocative take of some sort, and you have to tell me if you agree with it, which would be charge on, or if you disagree with it, which would be charge off. So these are I tried to pick the paper up. It's hot. It's flaming hot because of all these hot takes. Mike, are you ready for the angriest edition of charge on, charge off you've ever seen?
I hope so. I was a little rusty there in the first segment. I think a couple weeks kind of got to me.
Okay.
I think this is more up my alley. Hot takes. This is Juan Gonzalez special.
Who?
My biggest fan.
Never heard of him.
Juan Gon. This is just for you, buddy. Hot take time. Let's do it.
All right. Hot take number one, Mike. Charge on, charge off. Terry Mohajir screwed up the whole Coach Abe thing. Charge on or charge off?
Charge off.
Oh, wow. I thought you kept it real, Mike. The fans need the real.
What else is the guy supposed to do? He offered his best offer, and she turned him down. I don't see how it's his fault that she went somewhere else. Now, you want to say he could have handled that statement a little better, and he could have just said thank you? I think Trace was on that side, right?
He was, yeah.
To be honest with you, and this is the hot take that maybe you're looking for, I don't care.
Is that a take?
I would be honest.
Is that a punt? I don't know.
And this is probably not the right thing to say. It's probably not what's been encouraged around here. I have watched in my lifetime one women's basketball game, and it was a couple weeks ago, UCF, when we played UConn. That's it. I've never watched a women's basketball game before. And I probably won't be watching one again for a while, too, until we get back to that same situation. Maybe we're competing for a conference championship or something like that, or we're in the tournament. But to me, it's really not that big of a deal. Women's basketball, who the coach is, there's your hot take. I don't care.
Look, this isn't about coach, though. This is about Terry Mohajir's handling of this entire situation, Mike. Again, he kind of inherited the Gus Malzahn hire situation, right? But I think you and I have talked about this. This is his first hire, right? This is his first coach hire?
Yeah, I believe so.
So this is his first coach leaving him and coach hire. So we kind of got to see a little bit about how he operates, right? And I think that's what's interesting about this is he certainly had some hurt feelings, right? And maybe that's rightfully so. Maybe there was something behind the scenes that we don't know about. I think one of the things that everyone pre-assumes is that, that Timo went in and said, hey, let's do this. And hey, I want to offer you this and yada, yada, yada. We don't know if Coach Abe was open to that. She might have told him, I don't want to talk right now. Hey, go talk to my agent. Hey, I'm not in for that. We assume that she was just sitting in her office, like hoping Timo would walk in with a fat stack of bills and say, you want to stay. So you don't know from that other side how that worked, right? I'm actually okay. Maybe this is my hot take. I was okay with Timo's statement because to me, it read as though that was a statement to us, the fans and alumni and whatever, about the future of our program is bright. That was his way, I think, of damage control. We're losing a great coach. We all know that. Don't worry, we're going to be okay. And I think there could have been time for a second statement that comes out that thanks Coach Abe and says, wish you well, good luck to you. The only problem is that other statement never came out. But on face value, I took his statement as, everyone, it's going to be okay. Everyone stop freaking out. We're going to find somebody who's great. We're going to find somebody who's here. I think if he doesn't say that 100% thing, I think everyone's fine with it. I think it kind of moves on as it is. But I do think he had some hurt feelings. I don't know that he screwed it up because it sounds like he offered. Actually, you know what? He might have screwed it up if he kept her because at that money, to your point earlier, what kind of hole would we have been in from a financial perspective? So, he saves reportedly like $250,000 a year in salary. So perhaps that helps us from a budget standpoint. So I don't think he screwed it up. I don't think he handled it perfectly, but I'm also okay with my AD having a little bit of emotion and being a little bit like, hey, I tried my best to keep this coach and there was some conversations and it didn't go the way I thought it would. And maybe he was misled and maybe that's just his pettiness coming out and letting it know. Perhaps you shouldn't do that when you're professional, but I'm okay with the raw emotion. So I agree with you. I don't know that he screwed up either. Although I don't know that if he had kept her, we should have celebrated as much as we probably would have if you look at the hindsight of it.
Yeah, at least the emotion shows that he cares, right? If he would have just said thank you, blah, 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 maybe it just wouldn't have seemed like that big of a deal to him. I don't know. Like I said, I really don't care who the coach is. And I don't think for everybody that listens to this, there's a few of you. People are very vocal on Twitter and stuff like, they're watching every women's basketball game. I think they're all lying. I don't think there's many people that are.
Wow.
So, whatever. And we save some money. Good. Because I think we're going to need it for other sports.
All right. Well, here's flaming hot take number 2, Mike. Satia Messer is actually going to be a better head coach for the UCF women's basketball team going forward. Charge on or charge off?
No, I'll charge off. I mean, Coach Abe had this program going in the right direction, and you could see the team getting better every year. And they took another step this year, winning the first conference game. So I think I would have been better with her sticking around for another 5-6 years. And Messer, I have no idea what to expect out of her. Like we said, she's got some experience. She's got a good resume. But what is she going to do here? I have no idea. This is a different place to recruit at than at Baylor. I mean, I'm sure she was a great recruiter there. It's a lot easier to recruit when you're talking about one of the best basketball programs in the country. Let's see how she does here on her own. So I'll charge off. I think we would have been better off keeping Abe, but that's not happening. So you got to move on anyway.
I'm actually going to charge on with this one because we're going to the Big 12 where Satia Messer knows the conference, knows how to play, knows the coaches, knows the style of play. So she's going to understand what that takes. She's obviously been at the highest levels at Baylor, at LSU. Coach Abe, for a great job she's done, right? I mean, the American Conference outside of UConn, once they left, I mean, we really own that conference largely due to Coach Abe and the coaching staff and the players that she recruited and the way she developed those players. But I think on the go forward, I think Satia Messer's experience, her knowledge of the conference, her knowledge of some of those areas, she's recruited those areas, right? So she's going to understand those recruiting battles. I think she actually may be better positioned. Now, the catch with all of this is, to your point, can she get the players? Can she bring in the right players? Can she find those players to come in? Can she win battles against, some of the bigger name schools? But she's got a good name to her. Everyone on social media seems to really respect her. Her former players are out there congratulating her. She brings some of that Baylor, that Big 12 magic down to Orlando. We're going to need that in a few years anyway, where Coach Abe, hasn't coached at that level. I'm not saying she can't, but we know that Satia Messer knows intimately what it's like to work in that conference, to play in that conference, to win in that conference. She's got the formula, hopefully the blueprint. If she gets the players, I think she actually may be a better fit long term. Hot take.
Yeah, it depends on who she brings in. Like I've said many times on this show, basketball is a sport where you bring in two superstars and you got a completely different team. Mm-hmm. So if she brings in one or two of her players from where she was, you never know. This team could be even better than it was last year. But and also we got to find out if Diamond Battles is coming back. It doesn't look like she is, but maybe she can talk her into it. And if she can do that, that's her first recruiting job.
Yep.
Then you may be onto something.
All right, here's the next one. Terry Mohajir has been the UCF athletic director for about 14 months or so. So after 14 months on the job, Terry Mohajir's grade as athletic director is no higher than a C. Charge on, charge off.
Oh, no higher than a C.
Yeah.
See, I'd say that the AD's number one job is hiring coaches, right?
Okay.
And he hired Gus Malzahn.
Correct.
Right. And now we got a new women's basketball coach. You got to give him a high grade for Malzahn. Remember at the time, nobody here really wanted Malzahn. Go back to the episode we did when we were going over coaching candidates. I think Malzahn was like number 4 on our list.
Yep.
Right. Everybody wanted
Jeff Levy in the house, baby. Yep.
Yeah, and then there's a couple other people. We wanted the young guys. We didn't want this recycled Malzahn. But it turns out that was probably the best thing we could have done. And now, who knows what this women's basketball coach hire is going to look like. But I'd say he's done a good job there. Facilities, he's brought a plan out there to upgrade the facilities. He's got us into the Big 12, which, I mean, I know, like he said, we were already standing on third base, but, somebody's got to bring the runner home, right? And he did that. So I got to say he's better than a C, just based on those things. Do you want to give him an A, an A+? I don't know about that. He's had some swings and misses here. Trying to bring in the Frankie Valli song there. It kind of flopped after a week. He's got some ideas maybe that not everybody's too thrilled with.
Yep.
But I think he's done pretty well considering for the first year. He's kind of fixed the schedule. The football schedule now is going to get easier going into the Big 12. So he's still got a couple of holes to fill there. He signed a deal with the Gators, a future deal there. So
two for one. Yep.
Yeah, 2 for 1. But we got him on the schedule. It's really 2 for 2 if you count the game we just beat him in. So it's still a 4-game series. So I got to give him better than a C. I think he's done okay.
So let me lay out the negatives, right? Let me lay out some of the not so popular things. We are now 2 years without a stadium sponsor for football. Not all on him. He's brought a couple of stadium sponsor options to the board that have not passed through, so we still don't have that sponsorship. You mentioned the plans and the expansion for facilities. There isn't a clear path for fundraising. He's basically saying, we need you guys to give us more money. So does he really have a clear plan to get that money? There's the apparel contract that's kind of out on the ether there. We re-signed with Nike, but it sounds like maybe we're not happy there. Merchandise sales have not been I guess they've been strong, but there's options for the script logo, for the new Nighthead stuff. That stuff's not out there at this point. People get all over him for Johnny Dawkins and what are we doing with men's basketball? How are we gonna work on that? What are we gonna do from that standpoint? There's a lot of people who have left the UCFAA. I mean, Scott Card is really one of the main ones. He got a promotion, so that's okay. But you're seeing a lot of people move laterally to other positions with really not a ton of reason why. He's had a couple of missteps, obviously with media stuff. Maybe the latest being with Satia Messer, and maybe not handling that as smoothly as we can. And you're right, the scheduling thing still has to work itself out. He inked a 2 for 1, which some people were kind of on the fence about. I agree with you. I think getting games is probably better than not getting games. But there are some black marks on his record as we sit here, and so that's why I guess I'm just curious. Do we think he's So you're saying he's firmly in that B plus, B minus range.
Yeah, I think I'd give him a B right now, for sure. Yeah, you mentioned some good points there. The fundraising hasn't been what we thought it would be. We saw what he did at Arkansas State, and he raised some good money there. He did some good things with the facilities. Hasn't really generated as much yet here, but how much of that really is his fault? I mean, you got to have the people that have the money to want to give it, but maybe some more corporate sponsorships would be good. A name on the stadium would be good. So still room for improvement, but I think he's done pretty decent. And just going over all this stuff really makes me realize how much stuff an AD really has to do.
Yeah,
it seems
sure.
like a lot of stuff. So I'll give him something. It's only been a year, and so far football is going in the right direction. Most of the other sports are doing well. So I'll give him a B for now.
Yeah, I think I'm in a C. I think I'm at a C for him at this point, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's just a lot of things that just haven't landed yet. Some of that's timing, right? Some of that, you need time to raise funds. You need time to work on sponsors, right? So sometimes you need the timing part of it, and some of that stuff to click. But I think I'm at the C level right now. I agree with you, and I think that's what's interesting is I wonder how many people would say differently. You said the biggest thing an AD has to do is hire coaches. Some people might say the biggest thing an AD needs to do is fundraise, right? Some people need to say the biggest thing an AD needs to do is be a good politician and have good contacts. I guess it would largely depend on your view of what an AD is supposed to do or what their chief responsibility is, right? Because in your view, if it's hiring coaches, he's basically, 1 for 1 right now, right? I mean, Satya Messer has been here all of 48 minutes, so it's too early to tell that one, right? But he's basically 1 for 1 there. But if you say fundraising, then someone might go, oh, wait a minute, hold on, we're behind on this one, right? So I think it depends largely on your lens, but I think there's some runway there. I think there's a couple of things here and there that pop up where you go, oh, what are you doing, Timo? So I'm going to give him a C. I think he's got room to get to those levels, and to your point, he's got an ambitious plan. He's got goals. He's got things he wants to do, and he's, we'll see if he's continued to find ways to upgrade. Obviously, he upgraded from a football perspective with the coaching staff. Perhaps he did it with women's basketball. We'll see what happens with other sports, but I think he's a C right now.
All right. So how much money does he have to raise for it to move up?
$11 billion. Well, I mean, he's got this Mission 12 situation, right? I mean, I think I'd like to see where we stand in 6 to 12 months, right? How close are we to that goal? How close are we to getting to that part? So I think, give me 6, 12 months and let me see where we're at. I think he wants a 35% increase. Let me see where we're at in 6 months. If we've only increased 3%, then we clearly have to figure out some more creative ways. I think I heard that he mentioned something to the effect of he doesn't want to start selling some of the gear right now, and he wants to hold it for a little bit closer so we don't alienate the American Conference. And the Nighthead and the script logo, all that stuff's coming later. I mean, every time that stuff waits, I mean, that's money not in his pocket. So give me like 6 months. Let me see where he's at with that fundraising goal.
All right. The merchandise stuff, that's been a problem for a long time. And I don't know if it's the contract we have with Nike or the bookstores and all that stuff. We've always had little issues with the merchandise stuff. That needs to improve. I would expect it to improve once we go into the Big 12, but so far, nothing really shaken there. All right. I mean, you're making a case. I'll drop it to a B minus.
I'm not saying he's getting an F, but I think he's at that C level, and I think there's room to move forward. And I didn't even bring up the most egregious thing, Mike. The freaking hot dog buns. I mean, we heard about the hot dog bun controversy. You can't get a goddamn hot dog in the Cabana. I mean, that alone should get him to a D for you. But I mean, you do what you got to do. I'm just saying the hot dog bun controversies, that was out there. I mean, it was a real thing.
About that.
We all know it.
Forgot about that. Yeah. Forget the buns. It's hot dogs at all.
I know. Seltzers.
Right.
Here we go.
You're talking me into it.
Okay. All right.
Down to a C plus.
I didn't want to bring out the big guns, but I figured hot dogs are where we at, Mike. Okay. Today, Chip Lindsey met the media, and I thought he did a really nice job, Mike. I don't know if you heard some of the clips from him. Trace has them posted on his Twitter. He does a nice job explaining stuff. He's pretty talkative. He gives you some really good answers. You can tell he's been a head coach before. Seems like he's got some polish on him. Obviously, didn't end well for him at Troy, but you can tell he's got got some polish on him. We all think T Will is great. I mean, he seems like he's really engaging a young up-and-coming head coach, Mike. So here's your charge on, charge off. At this time next year, UCF will have 2 new coordinators on staff. Charge on or charge off?
Ooh. Give me charge. I want to say, I keep saying charge off on everything. Both of them are going to leave?
I said 2.
I mean, I think.
I didn't say they're both going to leave. I just said 2 new coordinators.
Yeah, I know, but that we get 2 new coordinators because they both left. I mean, unless one of them's getting demoted and they're still here.
What if Gus leaves?
Right, so then everybody is replaced.
Gus leaves and T. Will gets the head coaching job. I don't know. I mean, Gus has had a rough year, bro. Like, I wouldn't put anything past a Gus retirement at this point. I'm not speculating that, but 2 new coordinators. I mean, we know T. Will's a hot name. He's recruiting well. I mean, his defense played well last year. Now they have to do it again this year, I think. Chip Lindsey's had some experience. You could see a smaller school maybe saying, hey, if he can get this offense, moving again, and you can see the difference between year 1 and year 2. I mean, their names could both be on the list at this time next year, or before next year, I guess.
Yeah, they could be, but also everybody knows that Malzahn is really the offensive coordinator here too. I mean, is Lindsey going to be calling the plays? I don't think so. No, I'll charge off. I'll say at least one of them is back next year.
Okay.
Maybe both. I mean, T. Will, remember, this was just his first year as a defensive coordinator.
Yep.
So I think you got to give him another year or 2 at least before you can start talking about him making that leap to a head coach. Or, I mean, if you want to say he takes a lateral move as a defensive coordinator somewhere else, maybe at a higher paying job, that's possible. But no, I'll say at least one of them is here for this season and next. So charge off.
But if I had told you last year that G.J. Kinney would be a head coach at this time this year, would you believe me?
No.
So I guess anything is possible, right? We're sitting here with G.J. Kinney as the head coach of Incarnate Word, wherever the hell that's at. So I guess anything's possible. I agree with you. I'm going to charge off on this too. I think the wild card where I was trying to get you to go is would Gus ever step away and one of these 2 gentlemen ascend into that role and take over the head? Like is T. Will the head coach in waiting kind of a thing, right? Obviously Gus has talked about he's going to be here for a long time, but I mean, dude's just been through some stuff. So I guess you never want to say never, but. Would Gus step away? Would one of these guys be head coach waiting? Or again, they're both quality coaches. To your point, they could get a higher paid offer at another school. They could get a head coaching opportunity. So I think it's curious to see if both of their units perform. We definitely could be in that situation next year or around December. We're all like, okay, where's the coach openings? Who's being interviewed? Because I suspect one or not both of these names might be on that list.
Yeah, well, if Gus leaves, I don't know if Timo would just stay in. Timo seems like he'd have to go after another big name, especially heading into the Big 12. You'd have to tell me who else is available at that time.
Yeah.
That the coaching carousel works. So I wouldn't think one of those guys would be the head coach here. Maybe a few years down the road, you're telling me Timo gets the job? Possibly, but after a year of being a defensive coordinator, this is year 2. I don't know if that would be the next step.
One of the things we learned during these pressers, Mike, is essentially Gus Malzahn said that he's treating Isaiah Bowser, our star running back, like a pro. He's giving him more days off, giving him more rest days. He's not really taking contact, with the whole goal of keeping Bowser healthy and ensuring he has a really good season, right? Obviously, Bowser decided to come back and bring that extra year of eligibility to UCF again. And so perhaps a deal was worked out there where, Gus agreed to kind of lighten the load on Bowser. I think we all think that makes a lot of sense. We saw his injury history last year, so I think we're all sensitive to that, Mike. But we're basically letting a guy, take it easy, quote unquote, in some respects, right? So here's your charge on, charge off. Letting Bowser sit out and take it easy is going to come back to bite Gus in the ass. Charge on or charge off?
Charge off. I think he's doing the right thing with Bowser. Bowser has been a guy that had a lot of injuries the last few years, and we saw the difference he made when he's on the field and when he's not on the field last year. So I think you got to do everything you can to keep this guy healthy and just have him ready to go when the season starts. And even in the first couple games of the season, you're playing against who are we opening against? I don't even know the schedule right now. FAMU or one of these, whatever schools we're playing early. I mean, you got to get him out of the game. early during those kind of games. Save him for the big time games, the games we're going to need him, the Cincinnati game, the Memphis game, things like that. We need him down the stretch to make a run at the conference championship. So I think he's doing the right thing. You got to treat this guy, like the workhorse he is when you need him, but you also got to lay off him a little bit in the offseason.
South Carolina State is that opener mic, and then Louisville. I agree in principle, right? I think when I heard him say that, I was like, okay, that's smart, because we don't want Bowser getting hurt. This is not the time for him to have injuries. This is the time for him to get his body healthy, get stronger, be able to work on his body, to take some hits, whatever may have misfired last year, to get that stuff corrected. And so I think that makes a ton of sense. I guess just the phrasing of, hey, we're going to treat him like a pro and take it easy. Well, I mean, what if Matt Lee's like, hey, you know what, coach, my elbow's been killing me. You mind if I just take this play out? Like, where does that kind of, stop at some point? I just wonder where that line is at. I don't think it causes issues, but it was interesting to hear him kind of admit that. And I wonder if that's a really unique and coy recruiting tool that Gus is using through the media to tell, those guys who've got that extra year, guys who are thinking about grad transfers, hey, you come here. I'll put another good year of tape together. I'm not gonna beat your body up. I'm gonna let you get your reps. You're gonna get some touches. We're gonna play good offense. You're gonna be really, well featured here. But I'm not gonna kick the shit out of you every day during practice. I wonder if that's a good recruiting ploy that Gus is gonna use, and he's kind of strategically taking that, using the media angle to get that out there.
Yeah, well, you've seen how he's used the media wearing the Bowser T-shirts, and I think he wore the Sam Jackson T-shirt the other day too. So. He knows what he's doing in these press conferences, and he knows what he's saying that is going to get traction. I still like the idea of resting this guy. I think it's probably the smart thing to do. If you had a quarterback that was established as the number one guy, you'd probably do the same thing with him. But right now, Bowser is probably the only guy on the roster that you can come out and say that about, right? Who we have? You mentioned Matt Lee.
I think Ryan O'Keefe, was also mentioned as a guy who's being kind of rested, or being sort of allowed to take it easy a little bit.
Okay, I could understand that one too.
Yeah,
O'Keefe had that breakout year last year. You don't want to go into the season where he's out the first 3 weeks because he did something stupid in the spring game or spring practice somewhere. So, but there's very few exceptions, and you got to treat superstar players, I think, differently. I think Jimmy Johnson was famous for doing that all the time. Certain guys fall asleep in the meetings, they're off the team. If it's Emmitt Smith, you can do whatever he wants. You know what I mean? So I think Gus is treating these guys like pros the way he says it, and that's what life is going to be if they move to the NFL. You got to earn your spot. Bowser has earned that for now, so he's getting different treatment. I think that's fine.
All right, here's the last one for you, Mike. This was a live show question last week. You obviously were not on the show, and so I'm going to bring it back and let you opine on it, because I thought it was actually really interesting. And I'll phrase it in the charge on, charge off the way I answered it, and you can decide. You would rather the UCF football team beat the Cows guaranteed every year in football, but they would lose in every other sport. So you'd always win the football game, but you would lose in every other sport. And the caveat to that is you would lose series, right? Like in baseball and and softball, you play series, right? So you may win a game or two, but you'd always lose the series. You'd lose every year in men's basketball and women's basketball. You'd lose every year in soccer, tennis, whatever. But you would guarantee yourself a win every year in football. You would take that, charge on or charge off.
Oh, I definitely take that.
That's what I said too. Okay, we're on the same page here.
No, football is the sport that counts. And it's the only sport where I have that emotional attachment so much where if we lose, not even just to the Cows, if we lose to anybody, I am in a bad mood for days. I mean, the games are played on Saturday. I'm not feeling okay again maybe till Wednesday. I'm grumpy as hell after a loss. Any loss, regular season, postseason, doesn't matter. Now, these other sports, though I want us to win, it's just not – I don't have that same strong emotional attachment. I'm watching a basketball game against Tulane, and we're getting the crap kicked out of us by 20 points. I turn it off and I go to bed. It doesn't bother me as much. So No, they can have all the wins in soccer and tennis and all the other sports that I never watched. I just told you I've only watched one women's basketball game in my life.
We've heard.
So I don't care if we lose that game. I don't, I would say men's basketball is definitely the easy second sport that will get me fired up. And then I'd say maybe a little baseball. But other than that, I couldn't even tell you if we beat them in any other sport. If it wasn't for Twitter and it wasn't for people keeping track of the war on I-4, I wouldn't know if we beat them in tennis or if we beat them in any of these other sports. So give me the football wins every single time, and they can have everything else.
I said the same thing, and I watched in real time the horror come across Trace's face as the words were coming out of my mouth. Because in his mind, it was you take all the other wins, right? Because that's 10, 15 wins, whatever that number would be a year versus one loss, right? You would always win the war on I-4. You'd always do all that stuff. But my argument was football, A, is the king of all sports, unfortunately. That's just the way it works, right? And B, we have them in such a position that they're already down. And if you tell me I could just keep my foot on their neck for the rest of the time, I would take that all day, every day. We're already establishing themselves. Kick them while they're down. Keep them down. Don't let them back up. Any given year, we actually can lose in basketball. We did it this year. We can lose in baseball. We did it last year. We can lose in softball, right? Those things can happen. But football, we have been dominating them for so long that, let's keep the foot on the neck. So I would absolutely agree with you. I would take the football win guaranteed every year and give up all the other sports. And not because I don't care and because I don't want us to win, but I think if football is just that important, that's where people talk trash. That's where people really you go to your friends and the unfortunate people you might know that went to the cow country, and you rub it in that you don't rub in, hey, we took you in men's tennis yesterday, right? Like, that's not something you typically are going to rub in. So I went football all day, but the horror on Trace's face as the words came out of my mouth made me think that I did something wrong. So I want to fact check this with you, because I felt like you'd be in the same page as me.
Yeah. No, these other sports, they're fine. I don't care as much. Or I barely care at all, to be honest. It's football, and it's all football, and a little bit of men's basketball, a little bit here and there, some other things. But it's nice when we're winning these other games and we have bragging rights like what we do right now. And yeah, it's just another thing to throw in their face. But if they were beating us in every one of these sports and we beat them in football every year, I would not care. Give me the football win, and that's it. And the losses that we've suffered to them in football, I still remember the details of those games. We're going back 15 years. Go back to 2005, 2006, 2007, 2000. Those games hurt me today still. The 2007 game, I still have scars from that game. The 2008 game, where we came back to tie it and send it to overtime and then lose when we're short on fourth down, that was a real kick in the nuts. I can't remember a game that we lost to them in basketball where it was like, oh man, that was, I can't tell you the score of those games. I can't tell you who missed the shot, who hit the shot. None of that stuff matters in all the other sports. It's football. That's where, for me, the only thing that really matters.
From henceforth, episode 175 of the show will be known as the episode where Mike tells us all the things he does not care about, because we've learned several of them here this evening, of a top 5 list of Mike things he does not care about, maybe coming up later in the show. But we're going to take a break. Charge on, charge off. Did you feel the heat from the hot takes, Mike? Did the fire get turned up on these things? Do I need to do a better job of getting more provocative with these? How would you grade my hot takes?
They might have been too high. I don't think I agreed with any of them, right? So did I charge off on all of them? I don't even know. You
charged on with the football one. Yeah, you charged off on all of them. But I think I brought you back around on the Timo, so that may be a push. Maybe a push on that one.
Yeah.
All right, so
we're gonna keep getting hotter and
hot
hotter.
Hot takes. I need to cool down from all those hot takes. We're gonna do a throwback interview for you after the break, and we'll come back and we'll brace you for what you're about to hear. So everybody, sit tight. We'll have an open mind. We're the Sons of UCF, and Mike does care about this interview, because actually Mike booked this interview. This was one of your specials.
That's right. We share the same barber.
Oh, well, not anymore. You need a haircut, by the way. With every beer you were drinking, I thought your hair was getting longer.
I got a haircut right before the trip. I was holding off my hair was super long.
Yeah.
And I had to cut it right before we left.
All right. Well, we'll discuss Mike's hair off air, but don't go anywhere.
This is UCF Athletic Director Terry Mohajir, and in my spare time, when I'm not on TikTok, I'm listening to Adam and Mike on the Sons of UCF. Go Knights and charge on!
All right, Mike, we're going to do a throwback interview this week. We got a bunch of these saved up. We try to figure out the right weeks to throw these in there, Mike. And this one was probably one of our more controversial interviews. I remember when you posted this in the dungeon, literally like a second later, we got like the no way, and I'm not listening to that crap, and we got a bunch of people displeased. But we thought it was interesting to bring back now in the context of, we've been talking a lot, in this show we talked a lot about Terry Mohajir and where he is and where he isn't and what he's done and what he hasn't done and whether or not he's been a good AD. Well, for context, let's introduce you to Keith Tribble. Mike, Keith Tribble was the athletic director for UCF during sort of the middle part of the O'Leary years. And to say he had himself in some controversies throughout his time would be a tad of an understatement. He obviously was part of the process that led us to probation. There was some stuff going on behind the scenes with some football stuff. He gets into some of that, Mike. This is probably our Woodward and Bernstein moment. I think this is the most journalistic interview we've ever done, where we hit him with the tough questions. And so just for context, if you think Timo's off to a rough start, yeah, maybe Keith Tribble will change your mind a little bit.
Tribble had an interesting relationship with George O'Leary, to say the least. I do not think they got along. But it was a crazy time back then. 2010, the program seemed like they were all heading in the right direction, right? Football, winning conference championships, winning our first bowl game against Georgia. He was there for that. The basketball team with Donnie Jones looked like it was heading in the right direction with Marcus Jordan and those guys. And, I thought for sure he was going to be here for a while, but then things start going in the opposite direction. Maybe not doing everything by the book as they should be doing. So, interesting time, interesting conversation we had with him. I'm going to have to go back and listen to it again myself. Yeah. It's been, almost 2 years since we did
we
that.
talked to him in 2020 during the pandemic. Again, go into it with an open mind. And I understand what you're thinking right now. If you're saying, Adam, if you're telling me that that I could either have Terry Mohajir or an AD who put us on probation, I get that the bar is set really low there. I get that. I completely understand it. But I think it's interesting to hear and think about all the decisions. Mike said it earlier, everything an AD is responsible for, and all of the different things, probation aside, where you see sort of the cracks from a UCF standpoint. So go into it with an open mind, give it a shot, whether you like it or not, and none of us do, right? That period of time in UCF, when you look at it now, it's certainly, to Mike's point, it looked like it was a nice, shining rainbow, but you see the dark clouds over there now. It's a dark cloud over the program, but it is part of our history. It is part of what happened to UCF. It is part of that journey to get us to where we are now, right? Because no Tribble, then O'Leary, you have some of that stuff, right? So if all that stuff continues on, who knows where we are? So it's a part of the journey. Go with an open mind. And again, just the context of, we're talking a lot about ADs and kind of what they do and how they carry themselves and how they represent UCF. Well, this is the only AD we've had, except for, 2 or 3 quick conversations with Danny White and Terry Mohajir that we've had on the show. So we present to you now, Keith Tribble. We're sorry. All right, UCF was just beginning the ascension as a national program when we hired a new athletic director in 2006. He stayed on board to 2011 and saw a lot of interesting things happen during his time there, including some on-campus stadiums and a lot of the building blocks of the program. So we're happy to have former athletic director Keith Tribble joining us this evening on the show. Keith, thank you so much for taking time to join us.
Oh, my pleasure.
Let's start at the very, very beginning. So if I have this right about you, you were the CEO of the Orange Bowl Committee, and you'd been there 13 years. And all of a sudden, one day, your phone rings, or somebody calls, or there's emails. I'm not sure what it is, and they talk to you a little bit about a small school up in Orlando called UCF. So 2 things: what did you know about UCF, and what made you take that call and ultimately accept the challenge of coming on board as the athletic director?
Well, you're right. I did not know much about UCF at the time because I think UCF, along with, I want to say USF had probably a better known name because they were doing very well in football at the time, if I recall. And so you're right. I had a friend call and said that this is an opportunity that you need to look into. It's in the state of Florida. It's in a very great city of Orlando, which is a recruiting hotbed, could be a recruiting hotbed, because all the schools, I know the Florida schools recruit out of Orlando and the surrounding areas. And there were a lot of things that were happening. They were made the commitment to really be a top major program. And the commissioner of the Conference USA, and I are very good friends. And I called him about it, and he said, you really should put your name in the hat. You're a Florida boy. You went to University of Florida for school. You worked in the Orange Bowl. Most of Floridians, people who would have some sort of insight and the institution and could help you in the future. So that's how it started, and was very fortunate enough to be hired there in 2006.
Well, you get on campus. I'm always curious on these things, like the first day on the job, right? I always think back to my first day on my job and what was I going to do today? And I had a lot of things. I didn't even know anybody yet, but take me back to those first couple of days. Obviously, as an AD, there's so much on your plate, right? There's fundraising, there's programs, there's coaches, there's student athletes, there's facilities, there's meeting boosters, donors, there's all that stuff. How did you sort of prioritize what you needed to work on first? What were the first one or two things that you wrote down on that to-do list that you wanted to get ticked off as you started in your new role?
Well, I thought the first things I needed to do was to familiarize myself with all the major players, the athletic staff, the university personnel, and the student athlete. So I spent a great deal of time, talking to each and every one of them, or as much as I could possibly talk to them, during a period of the 30 to 60 days, the first days I got there. Then I had a chance to meet with some of the donors and boosters and season ticket holders. And as you can recall, back in that, we were about to open up a new football stadium. We had University of Texas getting ready to come in the stadium at some point, and we really had a lot to get done in a very short period of time. So fortunate that my predecessors, both Steve Sloan and Steve Orsini, had done a very good job in terms of the program, in terms of the staff, and really setting those sort of building blocks that the program could have some success. And I really, really do believe if it wasn't for their really the efforts that they made, that some of the things that I tried to get accomplished, or we did accomplish, wouldn't have been possible had they not laid the foundation. And so there was no question that UCF was a program to be destined for greatness. There's just no question in my mind. And hopefully, through the course of my tenure there, we tried to set out to make that a reality.
All the fans and the alumni, we were so excited to open up a new stadium and a new arena too at the same time.
That's right.
I'm sure there were a bunch of challenges. From your seat, what were the challenges associated with opening those two buildings that most people probably wouldn't know about?
Well, of course, the first one was the football stadium to really open up. And, you just don't know what to expect. It's the first time you had an on-campus facility of that magnitude, parking issues. The university did a fantastic job of creating a parking system, which got folks on the campus. As you know, we created the mall where the tailgating is still, if I'm not mistaken, it's still historical now. People really gather to that location. So I think it really was the beginning of creating a tradition at UCF, which is, for a school that, had a very short, tenure in terms of football, unlike some of the ones who have been playing for many years. The stadium really added the extra that really began to propel the program, the football program in particular, to the next heights. And of course, the basketball arena was out without saying. It probably was the best basketball stadium for a college that UCF at that time had ever seen. Almost 10,000 seats, had suites and club seats. Some of the major big-time universities who have been around for many, many years didn't even have that. So there were a lot of pluses that UCF had that really, really contributed to its success.
Was one of the things kind of that was overlooked. That was a big talking point after that opening game. The lack of water fountains in the stadium. I'm sure that wasn't on you, but it had to create a headache, no?
Well, I think what happened is that sometimes when you go by the code is, as you know, black and white, but the code does not take into consideration being in the state of Florida in September when it's super hot. So you're going to have to make sure you have a lot of water. And as you remember, we did rectify that as best we could the second game that we played there. So, but that was something that, as I recall, it was a very interesting time during that period on those water problems.
Well, one of the other things you did early in that was there was a whole rebrand of the UCF. So we changed our logo, we changed our name, we went from the Golden Knights to just the Knights. What kind of part did you have in that? And were there any other options? Would you think of making like a big radical change? Because now, the last couple of years, people were kind of debating whether we should go back to Citronauts and things like that. Was that ever brought up back then? Was it always going to be Knights?
Well, we had a group, a group that studied it, and what we tried to do is we tried to get it easy for folks, and particularly the media, ESPN and the television, to say something simple. As you know, the quicker you can get to it, the better people remember it. And to say the University of Central Florida or Central Florida just didn't, gather. And that's what they knew us as. And we wanted to make a real statement that we were UCF. And it was a battle to get the ABCs and the ESPNs to use UCF. But we kept pressing because we thought it was important for the branding. And then beginning to change the name to take Golden off of it. We took a little heat for that because that had been something that had been there for a number of years. But there again, we felt that if we were just known as the Knights, again, we would distinguish ourselves from any other team that had to use the Knights. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Army is the either Black Knights or something of that nature. But so I thought it was an important period in the branding for UCF to really try to set itself to a different level. And today, right now, it's common to say UCF. It's just not anything that people even think second about, and they know who it is when you say UCF, like the UCLAs and the USCs, and that's what we were going after.
You mentioned football earlier, so I assume as you debated the job and you did your research, you studied up on the UCF football program. When you got there, Coach O'Leary, George O'Leary, was coming into his third season. We are just gone off our first ever bowl bid. We went to Hawaii and lost a heartbreaker. As you analyzed the football program walking into the job, where did you think the program was at that point? I guess, how did you evaluate what you had seen so far?
Well, I had known Coach O'Leary from his days at Georgia Tech, and I had plenty of friends in the industry who knew him and knew he was a, what do you want to call an old school grinding coach that believed in making sure the student athlete was prepared on and off the field of competition and was really, really concerned about the education of the kids. So I knew if you had those components in a leader in our football program, that we were going to be successful. And as you say, we were successful. I think Coach O'Leary, I'm sure no one would disagree with this, did as much to put UCF football on the map as any coaches have been there. And a lot of that's attributed to the type of individual that he was in terms of how he wanted his kids to perform. And so I knew that we were going to be good in football because I knew Coach O'Leary was a good football coach. But, as you saw over the years during his tenure, is that there are times when you did turn that corner and you became a good football team, then you got that target on your back. And we had that a lot of times. And I think sometimes we probably didn't measure up to the kind of team we we were exhibiting it sometimes to win consistently. But there's no doubt that Coach O'Leary was definitely responsible for where that program is.
Yeah, I mean, you almost took the next question right out of my mouth. So your first 3 years on the job, so we went 4-8, 10-4, and then 4-8 again. So kind of an up and down roller coaster. How did you assess those results? Right, obviously that you're the top guy. The buck stops with you. I look, all transparency. We know Coach O'Leary's, like you said, an old school coach. He's a tough coach. I'm going to go on a limb here. I don't know him personally. We actually had him on the show once. I don't know him personally, but I'm going to say he's probably stuck in his ways, and he's very regimented. Did you think there need to be changes made at that point? Were you able to go to him with some ideas on how to get things changed, or did you think at that point, after 3 years of inconsistency, were you concerned about the trajectory, and were you thinking about maybe there needed to be changes made on the football program?
No, I did. I had a lot of confidence in Coach O'Leary and his coaching ability. I think my role was really to be a sounding board for the coaches, for the head coaches, because they have a sense of an understanding of what they want to get done and how they're getting it done. And generally speaking, most coaches, when you're not doing well, whatever coach you want to talk about, when they're not doing well, they're the first person to tell you that there needs to be a change. Now, they may not want it, but they're usually the first ones to tell you that maybe they can't get it done. So I have never run into a situation where a coach who has not performed well over a period of time doesn't really come to that realization if you really ask them. And so my role was really try to serve in a role to be a sounding board. And there were plenty of times when Coach O'Leary and I would talk about things that he felt we needed to change, and I would tell him, can we look at this? And he would obviously take that in consideration as he should. And I believe that if we stayed the course, we would be successful. A lot of things can change when you have any kind of athletic team. The recruiting, the type of recruiting, losing a kid that's very, very valuable, important to you. So those are things you cannot predict. But hopefully, if you're able to have all the things necessary to win 10 games, you can do that year after year, and sometimes it's not possible.
There were rumors. I mean, maybe you can kill them right now. Around 2009, were we close to hiring Charlie Strong? Was that something that was circulating around the building? Because that was coming off that 4-8 season that I was just talking about. Yeah.
There's no way. That wasn't even a hint of a possibility to do that. We had a coach in Coach O'Leary. Coach O'Leary was struggling, as you said, but I felt very confident, as he did, that we could pull it out. So no, there was never any time that I was considering to making a coaching change.
All right, there was one change that you did make. We're going over to basketball now for a second. 2006, 2007, the basketball team was pretty good. And then the next couple of years, we're only 2 games over 500. You decided to make the change. Kirk Spiro, who had been a long-time coach for UCF, what went into that decision for you?
Well, I think there was a lot of things went into that decision. And sometimes with me, it was more than just X's and O's. It's a matter of trying to get a sense of, is the program progressing to a level that we need to progress at? As you can imagine, in that period of time, UCF on football was sort of one of the go-to teams in football. It was, UCF, maybe Houston every now and then, maybe a couple other, Southern Miss. But we were always in the top 2 or 3 most of the time. We were, the basketball was tougher, as you know. I mean, we had some very good basketball teams in Conference USA. And I just felt that we needed to make a change to try to keep us consistently in the top half of the league. The league was changing. I mean, the league, the type of kids that were playing and the type of kids that were in the league were different than what we were recruiting. And so we needed to have a change of philosophy.
There's a quote out there that said, you said we can't win the Kentucky Derby with a donkey.
And were you referring to Kirk Spurrow at that moment? Because that kind of raised some eyebrows around the fan base.
Yeah, I think what it really meant, and maybe I had a poor choice of words, and it meant that, you know, if Memphis was having thoroughbreds, we didn't have those same kind of thoroughbreds, and we needed to have thoroughbreds to play with the Memphises and so forth. That's what it was. The type of kid we needed to have, the kid that could line up and compete. And we just, at that point, we weren't recruiting those type of kids because you never had to at UCF because you weren't competing day in and day out against the likes of Memphises and so forth.
Gotcha. All right, so you replaced Spurrow with former Marshall coach Donnie Jones.
Yes.
How did you know Donnie was the right guy for the job in your eyes?
Well, sometimes you really want to hope that you do know that the coach is the right guy. I mean, there's nothing absolute, as you know. I mean, it's just a feeling that you have, and you have to put all the variables and look at it. And I just felt that someone who had a familiarity with Florida, the state of Florida, because I do believe that Florida, in particular, the state really produces great athletes in any sport. Some better than others, but I think that if you are recruiting in the state of Florida, you're recruiting some great athletes that can compete. And I felt that way for all the sports at UCF, that we could stay in the state of Florida, recruit most kids from the state of Florida, and both men and women, and still be competitive with a lot of teams in our conference and in across the country. So that was important for me at that time when we were making the change. And so as we went through the search for those kind of individuals, he constantly came up as one who would be a good fit for UCF.
Can you take us behind the scenes for those of us who won't ever hire coaches at a high level, which is probably 99.9% of the people listening? You don't just apply for these jobs on LinkedIn, right? You're not going to Craigslist to find head basketball coach jobs. And I think you served over really kind of two high profile hires in your time there with the basketball program and the baseball program. How do these candidates come? Or do they come to you? Do you get lobbied by like maybe agents, things like that? Do you have names that you kind of keep in your top desk drawer that you're kind of jotting down throughout the years? How do these searches start? Because again, you don't just apply online and hope that somebody calls you back. Obviously, you're doing your search all along. So take us behind the scenes. How does a coaching search start? How do you kind of narrow it down and get to your candidate?
Well, you're right about that. Most athletic directors do keep a list of potential coaches, either current head coaches or assistant coaches that they have studied throughout their years. They either know them personally or someone in the business knows them and made a recommendation. Just as coaches watch tape on student athletes, we watch tape and we watch, games, and we see how coaches coach, whether it's football or basketball, and we go to the games and we watch them. So we do the same thing. And it's the same thing that happened in this case. I had a list of names that I had. You have your far reach, the ones that you have to reach for, meaning you probably have no shot at getting them, but you never know. You never know why someone may want to leave an institution, so you still have to be able to pursue them. Then you have, the reasonable ones, and then you have some that'll be a stretch in sayings of they might be an up-and-comer that, may have to grow into the job. So you have to evaluate those. Obviously search firms have been very prominent in the last few years. Most good ADs use search firms just to be the third party because it's not good practice for an athletics director to call a head coach that's under contract at another institution. There's nothing against that. It's just that, I wouldn't want someone to do that to my coach. So, but you can have a third party, in this case, a search firm, gauge the interest of a particular coach that you may have an interest in. And then that's how it starts from there. And, some coaches, some ADs are their own search firm, They do the whole search themselves, and they eventually will have the coach meet the president and key donors and so forth. But I typically used a cross section of people to interview the coaches because I would like other folks' perspective on this individual. But it is a process that goes very quickly in some cases. In some cases, it's through the latter part. Most coaches got into buyouts, and you've got coaches who have buyouts, and you had to be respectful of, UCF at that time was not like Ohio State where we could, spend $1 million and buy out a coach we want. So you have to take that in consideration. So it's a very integral process that most ADs go through. And it's really starts from us having a list of folks that we really want to go after.
Just for fun, can you are you willing to share a name that was on your reach list during that search?
No.
All right, figured
I don't want to do that.
Figured I'd ask. All right. One of the other, I guess major turning points actually also centered around the basketball program. So let me set this up for those who aren't familiar. UCF was sponsored by Adidas. We were an Adidas school. We were entering in, I think we're in the last year of our contract with Adidas. And Coach Spurra initially, and then Donnie Jones, we were recruiting one Marcus Jordan. So if that name's familiar to anybody out there, Marcus is the son of one Michael Jordan, obviously a famed Nike endorser. He had his own Jordan brand. Marcus has stated in some interviews way back in the day that during his recruiting process, he asked, or he was told that potentially wearing a Jordan brand shoe wouldn't be a problem, and that those all things would be worked out. And obviously, things kind of went by after that. So my first question for you is, I don't know where you were I don't know if you were in the hiring process at that point, if you were on board yet, but were you aware of any arrangement with Marcus prior to coming to UCF? Was that something that was worked out ahead of time, that he would be able to wear Jordans?
I was not aware of any kind of commitment for Marcus to wear his father's shoes or Nike or Jordans. Obviously, during the process, as the situation got exposed and heated up, I became aware that that was discussed. Whether it was committed or promised, that still remains this secret out there that no one knows. But once I became aware of it, and the kid felt that he was, I have always been an individual or an AD or even today that wants to give the benefit of the doubt to the kids, because that's what we're in the business for. We're in the business to educate and have kids come to the institution and eventually graduate. So we had to find a way to make it work, because that was what the kid believed was said, and I had to go in that direction.
Well, to your credit, you did honor it. You let him wear Jordans, and he did a decent cover-up job. He wore the sort of the all-white. I think they were 11s at that point. There was nothing on him. There was a tiny little Jumpman on the toe. He even went out and got the Adidas ankle braces to, so if someone zoomed in tight on the shoe, you'd see Adidas. Obviously, he stepped on the court. And the very next day, I assume you get this phone call, somebody from Adidas calls, and they're not happy. Can you kind of take us through what that process was like? And obviously, we talked earlier about some of the things that you inherit and some of the things that happened in your job. You get the phone ring, and it's Adidas, and it's a lot of money on the line, and they're not happy. How did that whole conversation work out? And ultimately, it sounds like they ended up deciding to drop our contract at the end of the situation.
Well, you're right. I did get a phone call, and so I guess it's from the higher ups at Adidas, I guess over in Germany. But I guess the folks in North America forgot to tell them that they had worked out an arrangement. But everybody seems to forget at some point, it's just, so they were obviously, and I can understand that, they did not appreciate it. And so we had to really try to work out a way to make all parties, happy and hold on it. And again, my whole, what I was looking to is that we wanted to protect the kid, protect Marcus, and because he was our student athlete, we recruited him to our campus. And so anything else, I had to try to, make it right and do the thing that was going to be in benefit of the university, but also, make sure that we protected the kids. So that's what we did.
So obviously we become free from the contract at that point, right? And so I'm a
Yes.
sneakerhead. I'm a uniform geek. I love that kind of stuff. Yeah, Keith, that's something I every week I try to see what the combos are going to be. I live and die by that stuff. So obviously we're a free agent. There was a lot of speculation we would go with Nike or Jordan, but obviously I assume there were other suitors. Under Armour was out there at that point. Can you take us behind the scenes a little bit and how you decided what apparel brand to go with and sort of how big a deal you think it was at that time to maybe link up with Nike at that point?
Well, I think really it got to a point where as we were going through it, we were, of course, Adidas was very upset and was going to pull the contract from us because they felt that we, were in breach. I disagreed with that, but still, we couldn't stop them from it, and we weren't at the point where we wanted to really cause any ruckus against Adidas. So yes, you're right. There were certain people that called and said, "Hey, would you consider us?" Certain shoe manufacturers. But at the end of the day, since the whole issue started with Marcus and wanting to wear the brand, I just thought it would be the right thing to do to go to the brand and really try to work out a deal where both the kid could be satisfied and the university can be whole and taken care of. And I have to really credit Michael and there were many nights that I had conversations with Michael and Michael and the Nike folks, and trying to get something that was comparable and was good for the entire teams, all the teams at the time. And fortunately, we were able to work out something with Nike, and obviously it's turned out super well because they've expanded that beyond compare with where we started. And, I think the brand was something that the kids wanted anyway. At the end of the day, everybody's, I guess, has been satisfied with what's happened so far.
Another huge topic that's been around UCF forever, and it seems like it never goes away, is the conference affiliations. When are we going to move into a bigger conference? Can you take us behind the scenes back then? What kind of conversations were you having with these other conferences? How close were we to ever getting an invite somewhere else?
Well, we had constant conversations with all the conferences that we felt made sense, whether it was ACC, SEC, Big 12, Big East at that time, and I guess doing the general rule of thumb was determining the value that UCF would bring to a conference, especially in television value and competition. And, today UCF is a lot better in terms of all that, the competition, the viewership, the whole 9 yards than it was back at the time we were considering this. But nonetheless, we felt it was important because we thought we had done all the things necessary to be considered. And we were at the end, I guess, about to go into the Big East Conference, which at that time was one of the top, conferences. There were 6 of them, and then the shoe fell out with the conferences. I guess it wasn't Power 5. I don't know what it was. The name of it was at that time, but they changed, and the Big East was not a part of it. And that's unfortunate because I think that UCF, and at that time, and even more so today, has all the ingredients. I mean, everything from fan support to student support, and the largest, if not the second or first largest, I don't know what the number is, but one of the largest student populations in the country. Fans, support, donations, and so forth, and competition and academics. And so it has all the things necessary to compete at that level, the Power 5 level. And I do believe that they will be there. The university will be a part of a Power 5 conference. I don't know what it is. I do think there's be some changes in the conferences here in the next 5 years, but there's no question that they deserve to be there. But there were conversations, and again, we did have that. We were going into the Big East, which was going to be a part of it, but unfortunately, that fell apart at the end there, and then Now it is, obviously they didn't put the Big East in the Part 5, excuse me.
You mentioned being in communication with all these other conferences, even the ACC and the SEC. Do you think schools like Florida or Florida State or Miami will ever allow us to join one of those two conferences, or they're always going to find a way to keep us out?
Well, probably a year or two ago. I mean, if you'd asked me earlier, 2 years earlier, 3 years earlier, and I would say, yeah, that'll be tough. They would definitely fight it. But, at some point, they're only one vote and in their respective conferences or whatever. But I do believe that the landscape has changed in the last year or two. And I do believe that it certainly has changed now with the COVID-19, that college athletics will be a different sort of product here. What that will be, I don't know, but I know it won't be the same as it used to be. I do know that I predict that in the group of 5, which UCF is a part of right now, there will be some real strong looks at redoing things, because you guys are too young to remember this. You may know a little bit about it, but when conferences first started, they started for the sole reason of being geographically connected, meaning you were in a same footprint. The ACC, all the schools were in the ACC, and the Pac-12, the Pac-10, or whatever, they were all there together. And that was for travel. And that was for, not only football and basketball, but the other sports had to travel and compete too. I foresee realignment somewhere down the line where we go back to that norm and not chase where television will be, because every game is on television now. There's no reason for you to go and try to get a good television game. All games could be on television. So I do believe that UCF eventually will be in a Power 5 conference.
All right. Another big matter that was happening around the same time. The NCAA released Notice of Allegations report, levied some pretty serious claims against UCF and you personally.
Right.
When were you made aware of that report?
Oh, I can't say when I was made aware of it, but I knew that the university was under investigation. I mean, obviously, being athletics director, I would get that information. And as it proceeded along, and the way that they go about doing, their investigation, finally they came to a conclusion on some allegations on, as you say, on me personally and the university and some other coaches too. But so I don't know exactly when I was made aware, but I did at the end, obviously was made aware of it because they gave the information to me.
Keith, one of the central points of that complaint was around a gentleman named Ken Caldwell and his relationship with UCF coaches and administrators. For those who aren't familiar, who is Ken Caldwell, and why was his alleged relationship with UCF coaches and administrators a problem for the NCAA?
I cannot answer that question. Why was Ken's relationship a problem for the NCAA? I know Ken was a young gentleman who was good friends of Ramsa, I think, a kid that played for us, a very good kid, and was good friends of him. And so he was around the program. I don't know why they would rule, but I think at that period of time, as you recall, we were also on parallel track with the Penn State allegations. So I do believe that there was an attitude to show that the NCAA had full control over what was happening in their colleges, and so they were going to obviously set examples. So I'm not sure what they saw or what they believed or anything of that nature.
In the notice of the NCAA, one of the things that got you personally sort of involved was there was an allegation that there were email exchanges between you and Caldwell. Obviously, you denied those. Do you still dispute the notion that you had any contact with Caldwell?
I never denied in contact with anyone. I never denied that. I believe that I obviously made some mistakes and would do it differently, but I never denied I didn't contact.
Can you share what you would do differently?
Probably have a sense of understanding exactly what relationship Ken may have had, and having a good understanding of that, and making sure that there was the right systems in place to make sure that there was no appearance of anything. I would definitely handle that differently.
Ultimately, you chose to resign in November 2011.
Yes.
What was the final reason for that? Why did you decide to resign as athletic director?
Well, I believe that at the point when you cease to be relevant, meaning that during my watch, whether personally or whether the program itself had experienced some difficulties, in this case, NCAA situation, that I should no longer lead the program, and I believe that to today. I mean, I'm the leader. I'm in charge. I'm responsible for things that go on within my program, and I think I've never backed away from that from the day I left UCF to today. I have not, done anything, spoken out, said anything, because at the end of the day, I take the responsibility of what happened during the tenure that I was there with that program.
You spent over 5 years there in Orlando, and you oversaw many of the foundational elements that are still there, still in place today. The ending gets talked about the most, I know, and it's not comfortable to talk about. But from your perspective, how would you describe your overall time and your legacy at UCF?
Well, I hope that at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, that it's looked upon that we, meaning the team that was assembled, I was just the conductor of the organization, the leader, that we were able to achieve the goals of building a program that today represents excellence, represents graduating student athletes, represents a fan base that really is excited about being a part of it and has helped build it over the past, number of years. And that building blocks, as I said earlier, when it first started, I'm not going to say that, I created this and created that. I took what was started prior to me and hopefully took it to the next level. And those who came after me, the two athletic directors, or two or three athletic directors that came after me, it is very pleasing to see that they took that foundation, which was done back in my tenure there, and built upon that, so UCF can continue to be a great institution, not only academically, but also athletically, and both men's and women's program, both the Olympic sports and the major sports, football, basketball, women's basketball, and so forth. So that I will always be proud of, because I feel proud when I see how well they do in their particular fields of sport, and also how well they do academically. So it's a sense of pride. And as I said earlier, some of the things that did not go my way, or were things that I would look back on, and as I said, handle it differently, do it differently. But I take full responsibility, because I believe if you're going to take responsibility and believe that you want to be a part of the greatness, you also have to be a part of something that wasn't as great. And but I hope at the end of the day, whatever UCF experienced during that period of time, it was a sort of a springboard to the success that they're achieving now. And I only wish nothing but success to everyone any associated with UCF program, both the fans, the players, the staff, the coaches, and the administrators there. Because as I said, they will be in a Power 5 conference.
Keith, have you had a chance to go back to campus since you left? Have you been back to UCF?
I have. I have not been to a game or anything like that. But I've been on the campus, because I have, some friends who have kids, because everybody in Dade County sends to go to UCF now. And that's good. That's good. I mean, you want that, and so I have a lot of friends who call me about the university, want, my insight of the university and so forth like that. And so, we are, and I am, my family is very proud of what's happened at the university and where they are now. And as I said, we look forward to seeing it continue growth. I know they have a new president now, and sometimes things happen and you can't control it. I mean, Dr. Hitt, had a situation where at the end of the day, you can't erase the good that happened. You cannot erase the good that happened. Unfortunate things do happen, but hopefully, you can be remembered by the great things that happen. But so I'm really, I believe that the sky's the limit, and hopefully one day I can go see UCF play in what's it called? CFP championship game now.
Awesome. Well, look, we appreciate your time. We end every interview. We have some fun at the end here. So we always ask like five or so rapid fire questions. These could be about music, movies, sports. It could be about anything at all. So are you prepared to tolerate our 5 rapid fire questions?
I don't know. I guess I have to. Wow.
Okay. First one's an easy one for you. Okay. We talked about Marcus Jordan. You talked about Michael. So who's the better basketball player, Michael Jordan or LeBron James?
LeBron James. Michael Jordan.
Any particular reason you lean that way?
I just old school. I like old school. I like just the way he carried. I mean, he was nothing. I mean, he was nothing by himself. But when he had the team and everything around, I just believe in that team concept. And once the team, the Scottie Pippens and all that start playing, and he just made the difference. He made them play better, and that's what you have to do.
If I invented a time machine, would you take it to go back in the past, or would you use it to go to the future? And where would you go?
Wow. I'd probably go back to high school.
Is this fun times back then? Just relive those moments?
The recruiting periods, when I was recruited, I went to, we had 10 games. I went on 10 recruiting trips. 10 recruiting trips. I went on a recruiting trip every week because we played on a Thursday and Friday, and I would be gone on Friday, now Saturday, and whether it's Wisconsin, Georgia Tech, University of Miami, Florida State, Alabama. I mean, that was, from an African American kid in Miami, Florida, going on. I mean, that was the time I enjoyed.
All right. Everybody thinks it's cool to be the athletic director, right? Working in sports, it's got to be a cool gig, right? Tell me one thing about being an AD that just sucks.
I can tell you the one thing that being an AD sucked for me is seeing a kid that has gotten hurt, and he or she cannot play again ever. Meaning they are finished, their college days are gone, and they worked all their life for it. I mean, that's hard. That was a hard to see injury, career-ending injuries, or injuries that because they're just a lot of things in life some grown-ups can't take, but when a young kid is trying to take a tragic thing like that was tough. Second is losing.
I was gonna say, does sports become less fun when it's a job?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, you have to love it. I mean, you have to know. I mean, it's just like saying, is golf less fun for Tiger Woods? It's probably, he probably loves it. I mean, every day you get to be, how many friends used to say, you get to go to a game and be on the sideline, and that's your job. So no, being in athletics is the best job that you could have.
All right, what's your favorite meal? Once we get out of this quarantine, you got a restaurant, a favorite meal you can't wait to go get again? Or is it just a home cooking, something you get at home?
Well, hell, I'm tired of home cooking. I've been doing that. Probably Capitol Grill steak.
How do you take it? Is it well done, medium rare?
Medium rare.
All right.
That's nice. All right, you mentioned you're a former athlete. You're a big guy. You're a strong guy. A lot of people off the routine right now, and so work's going to come up around again at some point soon, Keith. So, what's the best time to work out in your opinion? Should you work out first thing in the morning before you go to work, or should you wait till after work is over to work out? What do you think the best time to work out is?
Really, the best time is before you go to work.
I agree.
Because, in a busy time, by the time you always talk yourself out of it. Oh, it's 5 o'clock. Oh, God. I'll do it tomorrow. But in the morning, if you first get up and you do it, it's great. When I was at UNLV and I was a senior associate there, we used to work out at noon instead of really having a big lunch. We'd work out at noon. Now that's difficult if you can only do that in athletics because you got a locker room, you got about 5 or 6 locker rooms, so you can go in any locker room you want to. But if you're on a job where it's 9 to 5, it's tough to go at lunch. So I say morning.
What's your favorite musical act? So Friday, you get out of work, you're on your way home, you crank up the volume. What song are you putting on? What gets you in a good mood?
No particular song, just jazz. I love jazz. So I'm going to listen to some smooth jazz, Kenny G or somebody. I'm going to listen to somebody because by that time, and then after I do that, and then when I get home for the weekend, then I might put on some, if there's such a thing, some light hip hop. If there's such a thing.
Who's a light hip hop artist that qualifies in that genre for you?
Oh, some of Jay-Z I can listen to. I think it's a little crazy, but but I like Jay-Z.
Okay. All right. So post-COVID, when this whole nonsense is over, and you can finally get out and you can go to one vacation spot, where do you want to go? It could be a place you've been before, or maybe a place you want to go. But you're getting the Tribble, the Tribble family together. You guys are heading for a vacation. Where are you guys going to go?
Mediterranean cruise.
Oh, so you go cruising even after all this virus talk? You don't have any fear of that?
Yeah, I love it. I love cruises. I'm just have to bring my own sanitizer stuff and just that. But I don't know if it's going to be a while. I mean, I want to do that because in fact, my wife and I were planning a cruise this summer, but I don't think that will happen. but yeah, a cruise, Mediterranean cruise. I've been there before, and I love that area.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Ha! Oh, wow. One superpower. Probably strength. I don't know which one, Hercules, I don't know, but I don't know. I'm not a big, superpower person, DC Comics and all that. I grew up watching Superman, but we didn't realize it was fake, but it's just something we go. So I'd say Superman type thing.
Yeah, you're already a pretty strong guy, I would think. A lot of people say fly.
No. I hate flying as it is anyway, so no, I'm not gonna fly.
All right, Keith. This is a true or false question. You ready? True or false? UCF is the 2017 national champion.
True.
He knows his audience.
He knows his audience. Nice. So
because I would have done the same thing.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. If you'd have been in that seat, would you have done the same thing?
I would have done the same thing. Because at some point, whether people like it or don't like it, they already don't like it. So it's not like you're trying to win a popularity contest. I mean, so you do what's right by the kids, and because there are a lot of times in the old days where teams were national champion in the coaches poll, and there was another team that was national champion in the writers poll or something like that. And so I like the fact that people were complaining about it. I would have done the same thing.
Keith,
we didn't lose the games.
They're still complaining about it. It's 3 years later, and people still talk about it all the time.
I know, but hey, who cares, right?
I got the T-shirt.
All right,
That's all I care about.
Last one for me. Do you have any of those Unite patches laying around? And so, can you send me one?
No, I do not.
Man,
I don't know how, but I missed out on never getting one of those. I think I've lost my chance.
No, I didn't get one.
Yeah.
I didn't get one.
That's a tough break, Mike. We'll work it out for you. We'll work it out for you. Keith, listen, man, we appreciate you jumping on with us tonight and giving us some insight and obviously answering some tough questions. We appreciate you taking the time and giving us a behind the scenes of what an AD does at UCF. Obviously, you had some some really interesting things happen in your tenure, and so I'm sure the fans appreciate kind of learn a little bit more of the backstory there. And obviously, we hope things are well with you and your family during this time, and hopefully we can catch up again down the road soon.
Same to you guys. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay, sons of UCF, both of you, you are the father.
All right, here we are, Mike. We are back for Cow of the Week. Again, if you're new to the proceedings, where you been, thanks for coming back. We appreciate you. Make sure you're listening. Tell a friend too, by the way. If you were a Knight fan, this is an off-topic conversation. Like if you're a Knight fan right now, and you have other Knight fan friends that don't listen to the Sons of UCF, you need new friends. You need to tell those people that they can no longer be your friend unless they listen to us, right? It's going to be okay because you've got Mike and I, so you're good. You've got two replacements right here. But tell a friend, listen to the Sons of UCF because you're going to hear all the great stuff you heard earlier. But anyway, Cow of the Week, Mike, is where we make fun of the cows by making fun of somebody who did something that we think is worthy of being made fun of. Got it?
I got it.
All right. Why don't you go first then? You're so confident you got it. Why don't you, let's see what you got.
Well, the cows are always the cows, and they can't get out of their own way sometimes, and they've done it again. They are hosting during their spring game. They're doing a game among former players at halftime, and to promote it, they posted it on Twitter, and they said they're having an alumni game because they did not put the N in alumni. These guys have not learned how to spell, going back to their days when they were pitching themselves to the Big 12 and couldn't spell research. Now they can't spell alumni. A quick, spell check. Do they not have spell check? Every time I type something in my computer, if it's not spelled right, a little red line comes up underneath it.
They don't have
not have that?
They don't have a geography department. Do you think they have a spell check?
I love it. I love that they keep doing these things to make themselves look dumber and dumber as the years go by. But this whole idea that they're having, too, the alumni game, I mean, it's not going to be a game, right? These guys are not putting pads on. They're not tackling each other. It's basically going to be like a 7-on-7 or something. And it's at halftime, so that's going to be what, like a 10-minute thing? How long is halftime during a spring game anyway? 5-10 minutes?
It's as long as you want it to be, I guess. I mean, in theory, you control that. I don't even think UCF did a halftime last year. I think they were just like, okay, here we go.
Exactly. I don't think they even do halftime. The clock runs out, you flip sides, and you say, okay, second half is starting now. And then they do a running clock, basically, in the second half because everybody just wants to get the heck out of there. So I think their whole operation is they're trying to do something good, but it's going to turn out to be a disaster, and it all started with their marketing for it where they can't spell.
Here's the sad thing, Mike. That tweet is still out there. 6 days ago is when they tweeted it. And again, alumni, L-U-M-I, is what obviously they spelled. It is still out there. They didn't delete it. They didn't try to take it down. Maybe you own the mistake. Maybe you got to give them some credit for that. It's still available. You can still go right now and search. I don't know why you would, by the way. You might need to go take a shower after this if you actually search for the Cows football Twitter, but it's still out there, and they still haven't figured it. Either they don't know, which I assume can't be true, or they just are like, what are we gonna do? I'm sure we'll screw that up too. So big deal.
They definitely know because UCF fans have let them know. But yeah, these guys. I mean, like I said, I enjoy it because they're good for laughs, but. I'm kind of looking forward to just leaving them behind. Start a new rivalry with somebody else. I've had enough of them. So, good riddance to them. What would you like? I think we nailed it years ago.
We did, yeah.
what they should be doing during these spring games, before the game or after the game. You want people to show up to these things. Quarterback challenge, all the former quarterbacks. We even had Ryan Schneider challenge Kyle Israel to a race right here on this very program.
Mm-hmm.
We've had Israel come back and talk trash to him. I mean, the stage is set. It just needs to happen. We were going to have it at our tailgate one of these games, but that hasn't happened yet. But how cool would it be to see the old quarterbacks come back and throw the ball around? That I could see. But to do a game I don't know what these guys plan on actually doing. I think that's going to be a disaster. But, it is the Cows, and they do Cow things, and that's why they're the Cow of the Week.
Yeah, it's going to be, touch or flag football. It's going to, guys are going to be, pulling hamstrings. They're going to be like Ben Gay everywhere. I mean, I think some of these guys probably aren't staying in shape for whatever reason. They got real jobs or whatever. So I think getting them out and doing more of a skills type stuff could be more fun and more interesting. But a couple of other fun things about this. So the game is not being live streamed. And did you read the reason why they didn't want to live stream the game, Mike?
I'm guessing it's because who the heck's going to watch it anyway?
Well, that's the common sense reason, yes. Jeff Scott made a comment. I don't have it in front of me, so I'm paraphrasing that. He basically didn't want to give his opponents any more game film on what the Cows do. So he didn't want the spring game out there so that it could be scouted.
Yeah. Maybe he's just trying to, cover up for somebody. But the real answer is probably, how much does it cost to pay a couple camera guys? I guess you're going to have some audio to it. All that for what? For 10 people to watch it online? How many Cal fans are actually watching the spring game? How many Cal fans even go to a regular season game? 30, 40, about as many as we get at women's basketball games. It's the same as go to their football games. So how many people are actually going to watch a spring game? I can't believe that it's worth the investment of having to televise that.
Well, this week's Twitter winner of the week is this person here. So a Cows fan tweeted to that, or replied to that, and asked if it would be live streamed for people out of town. Another Cows fan responded and said the article in the link says it will not. And then at UCF Big 12 responded, this implies Cows fans can read. So at UCF Big 12, you've won Twitter for that one. I will say, though, Mike, if we're going to be transparent and honest for a second, UCF tried to produce a production for the Pro Day, and it never showed up. I don't know if that's Cow of the Week worthy, but there's technical difficulties, and the Pro Day, which was supposed to be live streamed, never actually got live streamed.
Yeah, well, sometimes we're Cows too.
Yeah,
I've called us out for that. But, again, how many people are actually watching that?
Look, I was tuned in. I had my TV ready at 1:30, and I was like, ESPN Plus, here we go, waiting for the stream. Waiting for the stream. And then our man on the scene, Trace Trelko, tweeted that they will not be showing the game. Although there was a I guess a recap that was on ESPN Plus. Rini Angolia was out there doing some analyst work, and he was on the show with us last week, which was pretty cool. So we did not get to watch UCF's version of the Underwear Olympics. Mike, I know you're upset about that.
Yeah, I'm very upset.
I know you love the Underwear Olympics.
Right. You get enough clips from guys like Trace and Beatty and stuff. That's enough. You watch a couple of highlights. You're going to sit there and watch what? How long is the Pro Day? 3 hours, couple hours, an hour, whatever it is. Guys, basically practicing or doing a shuttle run or running a 40. Tell me what times they ran. That's all I need to know. I don't even need to sit there and watch the whole thing.
I don't even think those times were released. That's the other thing too. Is the scouts largely control? That's not a UCF event. It's a scout-driven event, scout-led event, and some of those times are even out there. So I don't even know that we know fully what people ran, how well they did. You saw some stuff. You saw the bench numbers from a few guys. I think you saw Brandon Johnson's vertical, but even the number thing, maybe that should be Cal Week for me, but it's not. But it sounds like some of those guys did really well, and I honestly hope that everybody had a good showing. Looks like Big Cat is going to go to Tampa for a tryout potentially, or a workout. I think I saw Cole Schneider was doing a workout there. Mackenzie Milton was at FSU's Pro Day and UCF's Pro Day, so a bunch of guys. Greg McCrae was there, Mike. He looked pretty good. He didn't play, obviously, all of last year. He was a little faster in his 40 time, according to the non-official. So hopefully some of these guys get a chance at least to impress a scout or two. And, obviously we want to continue to see the UCF to NFL pipeline. Hopefully somebody in this group can crack that and make a squad next year.
That's right. And I imagine there's probably guys from these other leagues, with the USFL. Do you have any scouts there too? And anywhere, or the Canadian Football League, somebody's going to pay you to continue playing football. That's the dream. So whether it's the NFL or not, at least these guys have an opportunity to put some film out there and see who's interested in them.
All right, my cow of the week, Mike, is I do this every year. I think it's a tradition unlike any other. It's the Masters week, of course, so tradition unlike any other. It's the whoever decides that the national championship game for men's basketball needs to be at 9:21 on a Monday evening. After what is always a fantastic tournament, there's always great games, great upsets. There's always drama everywhere. It's always fantastic. 9:21 on a Monday evening. It just never. I mean, you said earlier that you you were asleep by the time the game tipped off. I think I was asleep 30 minutes after tip off. And it was a great game by all accounts. I didn't watch a second of it, but the highlights seem exciting. But why do we continue to do this? The same thing with the national championship game. When football is on like a random Monday night, the Super Bowl is one thing. Like, you can get people to stay up on a Sunday night, but for college sports to think that people are gonna like tune in at like the middle of the night on a Monday for like college basketball, I don't know. I feel like something's got to be done here. I mean, these are some good games, and I feel like TV people are just blowing it by putting them on these ridiculous times. And people are telling me that, West Coast. I mean, so someone's getting home in Palo Alto, California, is like, let me turn on Kansas, North Carolina. I mean, I just find that hard to believe all that is true. So, the cow of the week for whoever decides that schedule, because every year it's a complete cluster, and every year I think they're going to change it, and every year they sure don't.
The Super Bowl is not even that late compared. The Super Bowl starts at 6:40.
Yeah. Yep.
It's over by 10:30. 10:30 here, you're getting to halftime, not even, or right around halftime. And the entire tournament, the games are on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right?
Yep.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, for 3 weeks. Then all of a sudden, you get to the Final Four, and it's Saturday and then Monday. Why can't they just do the 2 games on Thursday, and then the winners play Saturday night? You're playing games Saturday night anyway, the Final Four games.
Yep.
Why not make the championship game Saturday night?
Yeah.
And this way, everybody can watch it. Everybody can stay up for it. I was in bed before. I was pretty much eyes closed before the game even started. I got to bed really early. Obviously, I was very tired from the travels, but I wouldn't have watched it anyway.
Yeah.
Even if I wasn't jet lagged, with a 9:30 start, forget that. That's pretty much when I'm going to bed on a regular basis, as it is.
Yeah, I find it, maybe it's because I'm the old man now and, get off my lawn kind of thing. But I just find it more and more with some of these sports that TV executives and whatever, organizations are like actively trying to get people not to watch, like actively trying to, how can I piss people off and get them? Oh, you know what? Let's do Monday. Everyone loves Monday at 9:20 p.m. Let's do that. Like, it just boggles my mind, to your point, that there's much better times to play. You tell me if you put that, even if you said, hey, play Friday night games and then put that thing on 4 p.m. on Sunday. People would watch that. Like, people would come home and they'd be at the at the pool, at the beach, hanging out with their buddies like that. There would be options to watch some of those things. And yet at 9:20 on a Monday night seems like it's the appropriate time. And it just never makes any sense. So, cow of the week, as always, to whoever schedules some of that stuff. Mike, it's good to have you back, buddy. It's good to have episode 175 in the books here. This was a scorching hot take episode where we learned a lot about things you don't care about. We touched on a lot of hot topics here, and we got a lot of good stuff accomplished. I feel really good about one. And Keith Tribble, who I'm sure is going to get us some nasty comments. Thank you for those. It feels like a good 175, Mike. I'm real happy with what we did here.
If you're angry about us talking to Keith Tribble, then there's a special place for you somewhere.
Oh, wow.
We're gonna. I mean,
say hello to our brows.
It doesn't matter if the person was good or bad at the UCF. He played a big role at UCF for a few years, and we had an opportunity to talk to him about it, and we asked him some of those questions, and he answered them. So anytime we get a chance to talk to somebody like that, we're going to take it. If you don't like it, then don't listen to it, whatever, but you'll be back again next week, and leave us some reviews and go to our YouTube page, and we'll take criticism too. I'm always down for that. Juan Gonzalez is free to give out a bunch of criticism, so it is what it is. But I appreciate everybody listening so far. It's good to be back in the routine. Now we got another live show coming up on Thursday. I'll be more, I don't know. I still in a little bit of a funk, I guess, the last couple of days.
Yeah, you sound good.
So I don't think this was my strongest performance.
Okay.
But it is what it is.
How would you grade yourself, Timo style? You were C
today?
Yeah.
Today was like a D performance.
Whoa.
This was a bad one.
You left some out in the wow! You left it out in the field, huh? You left some plays out in the field.
Yeah,
okay.
I think so.
All right.
Sometimes when you're good, and when you suck, you just gotta say you suck. And I think I sucked today. But
okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're not going to redo this thing because it took 2 hours to do all this, so we're not going to redo it. So we're just going to have to keep Mike's less than stellar performance on tape. But I think he did a fantastic job. I think everybody out there does a fantastic job of supporting us, and we appreciate you for everything. Again, Thursday nights, don't forget, Sons of UCF Live, me and Mike, we bring in Trace Choco, 8 to 9, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram, not Instagram, what am I saying, Facebook. But follow us on Instagram and follow us on YouTube, and go to our website, tunesmedia.com. And make us all very, very happy. And we will continue to provide you this fantastic content that'll cost you nothing. But until then, everybody, have a fantastic week. Take care of each other. Be kind. Stay healthy. And we'll talk again soon. Go Knights.
Charge on.